What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode 3 of the Gamer Podcast. I'm once again joined by my co-host. I am Antonius the Gamer. Fellas, introduce yourselves once again to new audiences, returning audiences.
Timothy Smith here.
Hi, this is SS Rank, Super SS Rank. Jory present.
Welcome back, y'all. Thank y'all for joining me for another episode. And we decided that we were going to make this kind of focus on more so one topic this time around. That topic being Street Fighter. Street Fighter 6, to be exact. Street Fighter 6 dropped, as of this recording, dropped on Friday, so a day ago. But all week we've been seeing all of the reviews come in, the IGNs, the game spots, the skill ups, and everyone is kind of on the same page. We're getting 8s out of 10s, 9s out of 10s, 10s out of 10s for Street Fighter 6. You have content creators like Maximilian Dude or Matt McMuscles who are raving about how good everything seems to be with the initial rollout of Street Fighter 6. And from my perspective, I think it's not too far off from what I expected to hear about it. It's been marketed to us for a little bit over a year, and everything that was rolled out up to this point was solid. There was a little bit of worry on my end, and I think more people's ends too, about how the story mode was going to play out. That was like one of the last trailers they released when it came to the story mode. But everything else in terms of character design, art, the color, the way they were rolling out a lot of the classic characters and redesigns, I wasn't mad at it. I know there was a lot of pushback initially with Cammy's design. I thought it was a great evolution for somebody who's been around for years and years and years. And ultimately, but before the game dropped, what did they do? They released a trailer that showed you that the classic character designs were still there. You can still get Cammy in the skin-tight clothes for all y'all PC modders who want to go crazy. She's still available. Don't y'all worry. So, that's just my introduction. I'll let you guys kick off in terms of, Jory, what did you think about just the overall release of Street Fighter 6?
Well, I heard that for people who pre-ordered the game, they didn't get their pre-orders. So that was probably a bummer for them.
Oh.
Yeah, I heard. I guess the special edition maybe, or just pre-orders, because I got a buddy of mine. He was like, he said, they tripping with the pre-orders. So I think that's more to do with GameStop or something like that. Like a lot of people weren't able to get their pre-orders, so he had to buy it digitally. Okay. But that's a reminder, dog. That's the only thing I heard about. But I thought the rollout was good. The anticipation was there. They did a smart thing by letting you play the game probably like a week early. Mm-hmm. As far as the beta, like probably 2 weeks earlier during the beta, to get everybody, like, oh man, it's back. So I thought the rollout was good. I mean, everything that they could have done, they did. I felt the character presentation, just the overall themes. I think the world tour is probably what's gonna get everybody interested, because it's not like, okay, I guess I can be a part of the Street Fighter world. And what they did with Metro City now, giving Street Fighter an actual universe. I think that's important.
Yeah.
So we were aware of it, but now we're really aware of it. Us and Tim, we spoke earlier on it about look at what they did with Metro City. Are they going to incorporate other franchises that they're kind of sitting on? And I thought it was great. I think Street Fighter's back. Me playing it as well, seeing what a lot of people are being able to do, they feel free to make combos almost. It's like it's no restrictions as to how to play. You have to play exactly the way we want you to. Now, a character or a person playing as a character can actually have an identity as a Ryu player. Not we like Ant's Ryu, but Jory's Ryu is so different. Or we like Tim's Guile, but Tim's Guile is like a rushdown guy. I've never seen that before. So now people, I think character, kind of like what Mortal Kombat was trying to do by giving you a different style, people are naturally doing this with Street Fighter characters. So I think that's cool.
Okay. Tim, what are your thoughts?
I'm still a little bit skeptical.
Okay.
Especially since from how the last Street Fighter rolled out, I just kind of feel very, very strong damage control phase. I do appreciate you now see the Street Fighter world aging, I would say. Like, you feel like these characters, like, you actually know what era of the story it's in, because they've made that very clear from the first one. Like, all right, this is after Street Fighter 3. All right, but what actually happened in Street Fighter 3? Because that series alone, of that phase of life, still has a lot of controversies and a lot of, like, plot holes in the story. Like, remember, they switched the protagonist. Gil was the final villain, but what actually happened to Gil? Did his organization get dispersed? And that's where I kind of felt like the opportunity should have came in Street Fighter V. Like, when we saw the end of Shadowloo, I feel like we should have got like an epilogue story for Street Fighter 3 as well, since it's basically the prologue to 3.
Tim.
What happened?
Listen, they you ready? They ended Street Fighter 3 story in the comic book, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alex absorbed Gil, and
What?
Okay, all right. I mean,
yeah.
you just gave me something to read.
Yeah. So
Star Wars does.
I don't know if it's canon, but I got the Street Fighter comics here, because I like the artist, Alvin Lee, and now I guess it's Jeffrey Chamba Cruz. And yeah, so the fight got wacky, man, in my opinion. I think it was hard to read, man. I was just like, okay. Alex absorbed Gil, then Gil took over his body, did a couple of rounds with Ryu, then Akuma came out of nowhere from the sun, grabbed Gil. You already knew how that went down.
Okay.
And then Gil, resurrection. And then Gil was like, man, you know what? I think I'm going to go to Florida. Something like that. Man. It was wild. I have the book here, but when I was looking at what was going on, when you skim through the pages of a comic book just to see, it was.
Okay.
I'll clarify. You people are welcome to correct me, but I'm gonna go back and read the books. But like I remember clearly, Alex turned red and blue.
That's fine. Like I said, Star Wars does it all. Like, they go from an animated series to a movie to a book to a comic. So maybe I just did not.
And I personally think that's horrible.
I agree.
Because
we talked about this on the first episode, but I was never a fan of Mortal Kombat. Kind of like, hey, there's a lot more continuity happening in the comic series that you should also cop. I'm like, I don't believe in trying to force a particular audience to adapt another media platform, right? Like, if I want to play a fighting game for a fighting game story, I shouldn't then have to read the comics. I mean, granted, I do enjoy comics, but I shouldn't have to read the comics to kind of know what happened between games. There should be some level of completion or continuity where I don't have to hit the Street Fighter wiki to know what happened in between these games. But sorry, Tim, not to cut you off. I know you're gonna give me your overall thoughts.
My final point was, like, once again they did the whole certain characters got cut, but even though you already showed us, because you remember, Anthony, in the beginning when I showed you the picture of all the characters that were in it. And then apparently, right, before near launch, you see 4 characters got cut for season 1 DLC, and of course 2 of them are. I mean, actually, no, one of them is a classic character again, which is one. We have a new character named Aki, and then you have 2 characters who were, one was a mainline character in the Street Fighter V, and then the other one was DLC. And that's Ed and Rashid. And I was like, okay, so we're doing this cycle again.
Right.
Like, hey, we're paying for Akuma again.
Yeah.
It's come to the point, like, is Akuma now the Virgil of Street Fighter? Like, every time when we get a new Street Fighter, we got to pay for this dude again?
That's a good comparison.
They want that money, man. They want that money, man.
Yeah, Virgil's
that's crazy.
A good comparison. Wow. Yeah. I guess for me overall, I think, like I said, I think the rollout was fine. I think the reveal and drip feed of information was cool. There's not really, as opposed to 5, where I had a couple of hesitations where everyone's redesigned. I felt like everyone's redesign of them getting older made sense. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of like, I don't want to say controversy, but discussion out the gate when the pictures leaked and you see like a bunny looking Ken and everyone's like, oh, Ken looks like he's on, unaliving watch, in his photo. And, you come to find out, yeah, he's on hard times, but he's not like a bum. Right. So I think everyone's designs for the most part was a lot better, especially in comparison to 5. I feel like everyone's natural aging, just kind of fit. I think the new characters spice things up a bit. I think Capcom has gotten a lot better at introducing new characters. With 4 and even 5, there was a couple of characters like, why is this person on this roster? They're so generic or so just, there's nothing about the design that makes you want to kind of like pick them over like the classic 8. And I feel like 6 kind of gave you, even Abel, to be honest.
For Abel, that's a waste of space. Like,
generic on generic.
The most is Kimberly and Lily, because you find out Kimberly is actually from T-Hawk's tribe, and of course, like Kimberly has like relations to Guy, the ninja.
Yeah.
So, and I felt like those were very excellent ties. Like even this Jamie character, that's Jun and Yang's cousin, and things of that nature. So. I do like the introduction of like certain new characters with a familiar twist to them.
Yeah, it wasn't something where, like you said, like if the roster's going to get cut, which it always does in all these modern fighting games, it's not one of those things where it's the usual like, why wouldn't this person be here, right? You kind of get this thing of like, even if they weren't available, quote unquote, for this roster, like you said, you have Young and Yang's cousin. It's like the people who aren't on the roster are still referenced in some way to let you know that, hey, they're somewhere in this universe. They didn't just disappear. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And then the last thing about what Joey said about making Metro City like this hub world, I did appreciate that because especially when it came around to like Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5, I really did love the inclusion of more Final Fight characters. Mm-hmm. Especially in Street Fighter 5, you find out Cody's mayor now, so they finally retired Matt Hager and things of that nature. Remember, we played Matt Hager in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom. So it's like I love the references that are going around, and it's all like they're kind of like how you said, making a universe. Now, hopefully, Rival Schools gets more of that same treatment.
Yes,
and if they really wanted to like kind of like pass down the torch to a younger generation, like I think that'd have been the easiest transition for them to do versus them giving us Luke. Like, like Batsu would have made a great transition. Like, what? Batsu influenced by Ryu actually getting training? Oh yeah, I'm down for that. And Kyosuke learning from whoever he decided to learn from, whether it be Ken or whoever, his style is altered, but still him. Because Sakura's already a part of that world, right?
Prime example of like this transition works. And then even when you find out what Luke's main character actually is in the game, I was like, so you basically hyped us up like, oh yeah, he's the future of Street Fighter. But then you find out what his real role is, like, not really.
Yeah, he's like Ryu Light. He's not really, like he's kind of ushering the new generation, but he's not
important.
Right, he's not like the protagonist. Can
I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, from now, because I noticed this happened to me. From now seeing the rollout, how much of Jamie and Luke do you guys see in Street Fighter? Do you feel like they're like, yo, these guys were just placeholders? In a sense, like, because I feel like now Ryu overshadows him without even being on the cover, and Ken does as well. It's weird. Like, the old characters kind of like take more of a forward footprint over them. Because I forgot about Jamie. Not to say he's a bad character design, but when people were playing, they weren't picking Jamies. It wasn't a lot of Jamies when we played online. Mm-hmm. It was some Jamies, but it was Ken's, Ryu's, Chun-Li's.
I feel the best time to really like see, the development of who becomes the new character for certain people is when tournaments come around. Because I definitely, especially the way how esports is now, I do feel like that's the best thing to really, like, who's really gotten to know these characters, like their exploits and everything else, and see how they actually play in the long run. Because, like, yes, like, You know, the Ryus, the Guiles, the Chun-Lis, like, yes, those are staple characters. Like, I've seen even people with E Honda, like, I've seen people dominate already. But I would love to see, like, you know, in terms of these new characters, how they really fleshed them out. So, I mean, I do feel like as tournaments come around, we'll get to see more of that.
And I'm saying that as far as like the story, you know what I'm saying? Because I watched the story online.
The story's trash.
Yeah, and not everybody's arcade mode. And like, I ain't gonna lie, Jamie and Luke, like their stories don't propel them past Ryu or Ken. Like that's what I was trying to say. Like, even if they play well, like I feel like marketing wise, if I'm someone who's watching this and you're telling me to pick up these characters from the cover, they don't stack up to what's already existing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you showing Ryu less and Ken less doesn't help because Guile's still right there.
Yeah. I think Jamie's to be determined in my opinion. I think Luke, he was maybe just the victim of bad timing, right? Of like Street Fighter V has had such a rocky rollout, even with the additional season passes and patches to the game and things like that. So he gets released towards the tail end of the game, right, where he's in like either the second to last or last character pass, and then even in this game, this is essentially Capcom's damage control, right? Street Fighter 6 to a certain degree. So it's harder to lean into him as like the newer protagonist when it's like you have to fix so much that went left with 5 that it's hard to kind of really let him shine the way they might have wanted to, because it's like, well, we also got to retroactively fix like everything about that went wrong with 5. So it's like, to me, it's like 6, the story mode. Yeah, it wasn't great. It definitely wasn't great. But I think they're trying to set the blueprints back of like, if we want Luke to play a bigger role down the road, here would kind of be the best way, right? Of like, he's a little bit older, he's a little bit more mature. He's still clearly not in, the top 8 in terms of the original fighter tier. But we're kind of setting the blueprint for him to kind of be the face, right, of whatever comes next franchise-wise.
I'm just like, okay, because for me, in my head, I'm like, wait, why don't you just use Matsu and Kyosuke? They fit that role more. I feel like they fit better than, like, if you were to put them next to, hey, Jory, I want you to make a decision. We got these two to be rivals and these two to be rivals from rival school. What do you think would be a better placement to move on to the next generation if you want people to like these characters in Street Fighter? I said, well, why don't we go Matsu, and these guys can be DLC.
Well, I don't think you can do that because the reality is, unless you're a really hardcore fighting game, like if you're really into like the lore, the reality is we haven't seen rival schools in its own proper game since the PlayStation. So you're asking a lot of people who are going to be newcomers or maybe returning to Street Fighter after years and years and years to be like, hey, by the way, this game from like 1999, yeah, these guys are the new protagonists now. I hope you guys play rival schools.
But what's her name? Akira was well received though
as a DLC character.
Yeah.
Okay. You're saying to make them the protagonist. I'm like, I don't think they can be the protagonist.
I get where both of your points are coming from because, like, yes, even with the last season rollout, like, yeah. The first 2 characters, I was like, all right, so Dan and Rose. We're paying for Dan and Rose. Okay, skip over that. But then, all right, Oro. Oro is a character that a lot of people have been wanting back for so long because like he was just goofy. Mm-hmm. The original Spirit Bomb. Mm-hmm. Boom. And then, of course, Akira. I was like, oh, wow. They tied that in very, very, very nice. And then, so the build-up was nice. Like, so Oro, Akira, okay, all right. This final character is going to knock us out the park. Who could it be? Okay. All right. I mean, he's flashy. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh yes, he's the future of Street Fighter. And I just kind of felt like in terms of what they did with this story around, they kind of just dropped the ball. Like, yes, the story focuses more about like your custom character navigating the world. That's cool and all, but I feel like, especially what they did with the story DLC the free story DLC that they did in 5, where it was more the character focus of the original characters and then their fight with Shadowloo, I kind of felt like that took a step back, Like, yes, you still face the big bad, but you face him as your custom character versus the actual characters in the story.
Mm-hmm. I guess
JP, you mean, right?
Huh?
JP?
No, you're.
Oh, okay.
You're literally your custom character, and you're just literally just going through the world, and then of course JP is the villain, of course.
Okay.
Any dude with psycho power that's old is the villain.
I mean, seeing his storyline, he doesn't seem that kind of. He's not even after world domination. It's like his motives they're not even threatening. They're just like it's almost like Kira's situation. It's just more of a within the vicinity type of threat, but it's not like he's not like a Lord Bison or Seth. Seth had more menacing plans, but even Gil to a degree.
But I think and again, we talked about this in group chat, but I think it's one of those things where they might be, especially with, again, how much damage control they had to do, they're probably afraid to establish another big bad, right? Because the reality is, it's like Bison is an iconic villain. He really is. You know, as much as he's been kind of overused over the past few years, he's really cemented. Like when you think of Street Fighter, you think of fighting Sagat and you think of fighting Bison. And I think with them getting him out of the story proper, right, it's kind of like, well,
you don't think it's Seth?
I think Seth could be a great villain, personally. You know, but it's. I'm sorry, Timmy, I couldn't hear you. What you said?
No, it's like, no, I get what you're saying, because like, all right, but then see, that's the confusion what 5 did. It's like, all right, so 5, you basically gave us all the villains from every single era. Like, well, Sagat is no longer a villain.
Mm-hmm.
He's found a new way of life. So he's basically like the guy who wants redemption now in life. All right, yes, Bison finally got rid of him. And then now I finally actually figured out what happened to Gil. So you X'd him out. Cool. Now, so basically the only real kind of villains-ish that are still left is Akuma and Gil's younger brother, Yuri. So it's kind of like, all right, and then now, since you brought back Seth in another body, where are these characters? Because, like, yes, when you play Ed's arcade mode, you find out, like, Seth is kind of like chasing Ed and his Neo Shadowloo group because they have traits in them. But when he fights them, he kind of goes into like a madness state. But then, all right, so like, did they kill this dude off screen, or so where is he? But I guess we'll find out the future through DLC, as we usually do.
Yeah, that's true. I think we've kind of covered enough of what we know, right, to move on. Like, I feel like it's one of those things where, again, like, not to shoot them bail, because I think if you're going to introduce like this, essentially your version of Mortal Kombat Deception story mode, right, it still has to have some type of coherency to it. But given all the things that they were trying to redo at once, where, you know, again, the game had to have a solid roster, the game had to have netcode that made sense for online, the character designs and character revamps all have to make sense. Like, I think Capcom, if the story mode is the weakest part of a fighting game, which is something we've kind of come to expect over the years, I'm not mad. Especially Street Fighter, which has gotten very, very convoluted over the years. You know, especially when it comes to determining what's an accurate story, what's not, what's a retcon, what's not.
Who is Ryu's dad?
Right. And then, you know, in one instance, Akuma killed Goken. Oh, no, just kidding. Goken survived. But now he's nowhere to be found. It's like, wow, right? I guess.
He went to sleep for a year because he got knocked out.
Right, he got put into a coma by the raging demon. Got it. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, what is canon here? What is the storyline of this game? But to segue into our next topic is, Tim, you brought this up earlier, right? Which is the DLC announcements and the DLC rollouts, and you know whether or not it's good or bad. Now, for me, you know, we talked about this in previous episodes. I talked about it with you guys separately. I'm not a fan of the DLC rollout for any roster of any modern fighting game ever. I think they're all very predatory across the board, where here it is, you know, again, it was a leaked image, but it seemed like the initial roster was going to be 22 to 23 characters.
Exactly.
But instead, we come to find out it's 18 characters, and the first 4 characters we saw on that are DLC, including, like Tim said, Akuma. And I talked about this on the first episode when it came to Mortal Kombat, but at a certain point, as a fighting game fan, you have to get tired, or I get tired, of having to repay for the same characters, of having to almost do a coin toss when it comes to, okay, is this character returning in the base roster, or do I have to pay for him again? You know, so I wanted to know, like, what are your guys' thoughts when it comes to the DLC, right? Like, you know, Tim announced who the characters are. It's fine, right? I think they're okay choices. I think we've seen in previous games of other franchises that usually Season Pass 1 is like a decent choice, and then Season Pass 2 and 3 is when they kind of get really crazy in character roster. How do you guys feel about how they're rolling out the DLC for this game?
Well, I mean, there's only one character that I'm actually looking forward to is the new character, obviously, the one new character, which is Aki.
AKI.
Huh?
It's A.K.I.
Okay.
You can say Aki if you want. I just, just letting you know.
I mean, I really like her design. She gives me a lot of mystery, and so I'm really looking forward to see how she plays out. I feel like out of all the new characters that are women, she's the only one that looks like evil in a sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jury, we already know about Jury, but then she's a fan favorite now. And then, the rest of them, are a bit more like middle ground, but then enjoyable characters. So I'm really interested to see like how she plays out. Ed and Rashid, I mean, to be honest, I felt like, they should have gave Ed a little bit more focus, because I kind of feel like he should be a more interesting character than Luke, because technically, he's the last of, him and his group are the last of Bison's bodies. Mm-hmm. It's close. Or like Orochimaru style, like he was supposed to be the new host for him to pass on to. And then, so he's basically a fusion of because Balrog was the one who trained him, so he has Balrog's fighting style infused with psycho power. So I felt like he added a lot of interesting twists to his story. Mm-hmm. Rashid, the turbulent wind. Let's just hope less controversy with him this time around and give this man an actual more pleasant stage to fight on. But now, Akuma's back, okay? I love his new design. I love, he's really aging now. Like, you're seeing, wow, Akuma, once again looks very beast, but, in a very cool way. But, I feel like they're kind of, pushing this whole his road with the Sasuke Hado a little bit too much now, because, in Street Fighter 4, we basically got, who would he turn into if he fully embraced it? Mm-hmm. That's what the character Oni was.
Right.
Kind of like, are we going to see a return?
Wasted potential.
Yes.
Are we going to see a return of Oni, or are we still going to be on this 75% full power Akuma that he doesn't want to fully go there?
Do you guys feel like, before I ask for your thoughts, Story, do you guys feel like Rashid warrants being DLC? If any new character had a return from 5, right? If it had to be a Street Fighter 5 character, do you feel like he was the best choice from the new characters we had?
No.
To return?
Yeah.
Nah.
That's why I kind of felt that way too. I'm like, I mean, he has a cool design.
Adon.
A lot of people don't like Adon.
That is DLC.
It's because of his voice. They gotta fix his voice. If they because Adon's, if you see Adon, right, they make him to be a very Adon's fighting style is fire. Like, Adon plays amazing. It's his voice. For what he stands for, I guess his voice doesn't match up, because he's not a weasel. He actually has a level of honor, a high level of honor. So that's mainly why it's his voice. He has the the Roger Klotz from Doug. You know what I'm saying? Effect. It's not an appealing, strong look. It's what's that kid Mike from Stranger Things? If he could fight, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't really work. I guess that's why it doesn't work with people. I thought there was I think a Dawn would have been a more interesting pick, or Sean. There's many people that Elena, many people you could put over. Makoto, I forgot about her. Makoto, I want to see how her redesign is gonna look. There's a lot of people I would have put over. Rashid, man. I mean, like Rashid doesn't stick out to me, man. Like he's not memorable. He's almost as forgettable as El Fuerte.
No, no. I strongly disagree.
You like El Fuerte?
I don't like El Fuerte, but I wouldn't put him and Rashid in the same category. I think El Fuerte, he fell victim to being the least interesting wrestler character in Street Fighter. Right? It's like, bro, you got to compare El Fuerte, which again, it's Nacho Libre. Let's just call it for what it is. You got to compare Nacho Libre to Zangief. You know what I'm saying? Iconic wrestler. And then Armika, who's basically a cosplayer's, wet dream. He just don't stand. It's just not enough of a compelling argument as a wrestler type character compared to those two. Whereas Rashid, I think again his design I thought stood out. Like you said last time, the whole scouter thing. There's a lot of ways in which he stands out. It's just impression wise, I would agree he didn't make enough of an impression to me. Like, oh man, I can't wait to see what they do with him next game. If he had gotten cut, I would have been like, yeah, whatever.
You could have easily taken there's so much inspiration to draw from, man. I mean, hey, let's make a dark Aladdin with the charm and the coolness or something like that. There's something you could have did many things that were interesting. You got Altair. Let's make a cool version of Ezio in the Street Fighter universe. You could have did many things to make him make him work flawlessly. I know thousands of characters of Arabian descent that I would have picked to model off for that were cool. Prince. I love Prince's character in Prince of Persia. Throughout the Prince of Persia games and sequels, I thought he was wise in his own cultural way, and it was just like, and when I say this, was like his wisdom can only be found through him and through how he lived and where he lived. That's what I kind of like. He has a different approach to life, where these characters you can kind of make them interesting because of where they come from. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the Chad of his region. That's how the Chads look over there. You know what I'm saying? RRR. Is it RRR?
RRR. Yeah, it's a Netflix movie.
I know that there's characters you could have taken inspiration from to make cool, man. Like it's not hard. I didn't know, man. I felt like they didn't know what they made Rashid jump for no reason. It's like, okay, that could work. But
or one of my favorite Bollywood movies of all time, Singham. Y'all ever seen it?
No. You gotta let me see it.
It's on. I think it's on Netflix, where they kind of rotate it off Netflix here and there. It's essentially this guy. He decides to become his town's sheriff due to the corruption in the town, and it is hilarious. Granted, it kind of walks the fine line, right? Because Bollywood gets a little, it's like a parody essentially. But in terms of when you talk about Chad energy, the pose full beard energy, slap someone off of a moving vehicle energy, Singham. Amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
Will recommend 1,000%. A little bit older of a movie, but I would have, as someone who's non-Indian, right? I don't want to come across offensive, but I'm like, that would have been something I would have liked to see from an Indian character.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that's where Street Fighter is especially sometimes when you go to those very old arcade games, they don't really explore that lore that much. Especially as we transition into more of this cinematic, story-driven world now, I kind of feel like that's where Capcom's Achilles heel. They need to start to really make these story moments really, I would say, because they have, like how you said, they have a lot of interesting characters, bro. You have the younger rival schools generation with Sakura and her friends. You have, the classic, the members like E Honda, Dalsum, and then their progression as characters over time. Zangief, Ryu, Ken, and their rivalry. And remember, you find out Ken is actually rich. like that would be interesting to actually explore. Metro City with the Mad Gear Gang, those type of things. It's like, when are we going to truly explore all of these elements?
Right.
Guys have, because that would make us care about the characters more.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, you see, like what you say to do damage control, in my opinion, I'm glad at how it rolled out, but I think it's always bad to kind of, when you're down the line in story, to now give your characters lore, because now it's like now. What I mean is, like, it's a lot harder because everything's convoluted. Everything is like, yo, what's going on? Who's who? You're retconning things without retconning things, and people are noticing. That's what I mean. So now you want to give lore. It's not going to make as much sense as you would like it to, because there's too many things that took place now.
I see
right?
what you're saying.
You know what I'm
Basically,
saying?
it's like with Street Fighter, you're right, because it's like Capcom kind of picked and choose what counted as being story and what wasn't. There wasn't across the board.
5.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
Ryu did
like,
beat Sagat, but then all this happened. But then some of that things that did happen didn't happen. And it's like, oh, okay. So what is this?
So Charlie came back, and Nakali, when Nakali was just Play-Doh man made by Gil, because he's the Avatar. At the same time, he's a great Earthbender. You know what I'm saying? So now you doing all these things. You might as well just reboot and give yourself time to write everybody fleshed out and have a plan for every character and where they're going to come into. Because what happened to SIN? All of a sudden is just gone. This was the rival to Bison's Shadow.
True.
You know what I'm saying? And this is where y'all was going with Seth in Street Fighter 4. You know what I'm saying? And AI decides to learn the fighting styles of 1,000 of fighters around the world. That's a more menacing idea, now that we're going this AI route. You know what I'm saying? You guys were predating, now we have AIs that can copy art, speech. Now we have AIs that can copy fighting. Who's going to win, the spirit of a man or versus machine? You know what I'm saying? You had great concepts, and I felt like you needed to reboot. So you got to give yourself time to flush out the characters. Now Oro makes sense. Where's Oro now? How old is Oro? Why is he Brazilian? Why does he look like that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? These character designs, they're kind of wild. You have Rufus. Where does Rufus come from? Why? You know what I'm saying? All these characters, these characters don't matter now. You know what I'm saying? And what about the characters from the EX Plus? Don't they count? Or, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to think.
Apparently not.
So now, like, if you want to invest in a storyline, you're gonna have to go to those extremes, because we don't forget, like, we're gonna play Street Fighter 3, we're gonna scratch your head, we're gonna play Street Fighter Alpha Strike, and there's characters that haven't returned since.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Now Ken is rich, but nobody knows that. Nobody knows Ken is rich. No, a lot of people don't even know Ken is related to the guy through their sisters being married. He's his brother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know that. So I think when companies do this, because they don't plan, right? Nobody thought people would be paying attention to storyline until Tekken did it, until Mortal Kombat ran away with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? To this day, as much as Mortal Kombat, those 3D eras were trash, nobody's touching their storylines. Nobody. That is an award-winning story, in my opinion. Deadly Alliance, Armageddon, Deception, Armageddon.
It's true. When you look at Mortal Kombat, it's weird. I don't want to get it too far off Capcom, but it is weird that it's the world of Mortal Kombat doesn't translate as well to other forms of media. Right? It's like we can't seem to get a really good Mortal Kombat movie or even a Mortal Kombat series. And you're right. It's probably the most lore-rich fighting game world we have. Of the story is all right there. It's all there.
Oh, you can. You just don't have the people that have respect the material. That's all it is. You get someone who doesn't look like Liu Kang to play Liu Kang. You get someone who doesn't resemble the physique of Kung Lao to play Kung Lao. You know what I'm saying? Or you don't respect any of the properties.
That's fair. They're looking more to cash in on the name and the brand.
You have, what's his name? The guy, his name? He's a phenomenal actor, martial arts actor. He was the fat dude in John Wick. He was Boyka in Undisputed with Michael J. White. Scott Adkins. His name is Scott. You don't know the actor?
Mm-mm.
Man. Okay. You seen man, you guys just don't know.
Nah.
his name is Scott Adkins. He was the fat guy in the suit.
Yeah, I don't. The name don't. I don't know.
So because I follow martial artists, and you have guys like this that exist, and you don't use them. You could have used the guy who played the Quantum Ranger, who is the voice actor for who played Kenshi in the web series on YouTube. He played Kenshi.
I didn't watch it. I know Tim did. I didn't watch the web series. I didn't watch the
so
Mortal Kombat fans don't kill me. Sorry.
Yeah, but not to go off topic, but like the media can translate, I think, flawlessly. You just don't have the correct directors. If the guy from the Raid got his hands on Mortal Kombat, we wouldn't be. It's just we just don't have the people that care for the properties. I think the producers are like, well, I know a guy. Hey, listen, just hit this checkbox here.
Man,
that's pretty much what it seems like it is.
That's fair. I think. And just to kind of, I guess, to keep moving forward, but I think that it's true that out of the long-running franchise staples when it comes to story, Street Fighter's, if not in last place, close to last place out of the big ones. I think in terms of consistency, it probably Mortal Kombat with Tekken right after, and then Street Fighter and Soul Calibur kind of struggle when it comes to telling like a very coherent story. Especially when Soul Calibur started introducing time travel, I'm like, all right, bro, y'all got it. But to keep it moving forward, or going back to the topic at hand, when it comes to the DLC, we know that this is Capcom's flagship fighter for at least, let's say, the next 2 to 3 years. We know this is not going to be the only season pass that we're going to see. I'm telling you, we're going to see Street Fighter 6 for at least, because we talked about it, they're going to have at least in their own version of Super Street Fighter 6, Arcade Street Fighter. There's going to be some complete package edition that gets bundled up in like a year from now.
6 years, baby.
I was definitely saying like at least
6 years?
4 to 5. 4 to 5.
Really?
Well, because you got to realize, bro, like fighting games have the longest longevity now, bro. And the way how patches, DLC work now, bro, people don't want to see a bunch of new, like they don't want it to become the new Madden, I would say. Like fighting games have the longest longevity now.
Tekken 7.
Bro, that lasted forever, bro.
But then, all right.
Gentlemen, I'll be right back. I'm sorry, I got to do something.
Yeah. So what I was going to say before our break was that I guess my concern or my issue with these long fighting game life cycles is it then makes it even more difficult when the inevitable sequel comes, when the final roster of a game ends up being 45 characters, of having to then start that all over again with a new entry, right? Because, even with Street Fighter 6, it's like by the time, I'll take it back, Street Fighter 5, right? We got so many characters throughout the Street Fighter 4 iterations, and by the time 5 rolled around, it's just like, yo, where is everyone? I legit had all of the Street Fighter 2 essentially anthology in Ultra Street Fighter 4. Where is everybody? And I feel like with 6, if 6 ends up being 4, 5, 6 years, we're going to end up with a Tekken 7, Ultra Street Fighter 4 issue of like, okay, what do we do with the roster now? Now that we're resetting back from 42 to 18, maybe 20 characters.
Man, that's a conundrum, yo, because
to me, it only continues to exacerbate that problem that we've talked about of like, we're being sold these characters that we feel like should be in the base roster. I'm like, yeah, because the games are going on and on and on, and we apparently need to get a new moveset every single time a game drops. So if you got to redo Ryu for the 45th time, that takes away from time that you could be adding to bringing back a character in a new way.
You know who I feel like they should bring back? Remember from Super Street Fighter 4, the oil wrestler?
No,
He's very cool looking, bro. Like, yeah, he was very technical.
Mm-hmm.
He was technical. I'll give it that. But it was a challenge that made me want to see it come about. Like that, and that's what I really like. It was like it was like a gimmick, the oil spill, and then the more times you kept doing it, the more advanced combos you could do. Like so,
the only way Hakan could come back is if it's his sister, and she do the same technique, and she banging. You feel me? That's the only way people gonna accept Hakan coming back.
I didn't know
with
he
the
had a
oil.
sister.
No, I'm just saying, like that's the only way.
Introduce
that's
like
make believe.
okay, I got you.
Yeah, make believe. Yeah. With the physics, you feel me?
Yeah.
And the oil, everybody.
I think Hakan kind of has like the Rufus problem of like,
yep,
they give him enough story, but it just doesn't fit. You're just like, what is this? It's a little bit too out there, you know?
Yes, It's like G, man.
Well, apparently G was supposed to play a bigger story because, especially like when Rose came around, apparently there was a lot of like ominous highlight about him. Like he's supposed to become some, I don't know, co-leader or some doomsday type of person. But they kind of just like, and then even with the relationship with the character in Street Fighter 3, Q, a lot of people say, because remember, that was his alternate costume. So like, wait, are G and Q the same person? But then, like I said again, lore. What is going to make sense of these things? But I mean, I do feel like certain characters will come back. I do feel like Sean will definitely come back, because especially like where Ken is right now. Because remember, Ken was his master. All right, where Ken is now in life, where is my pupil?
Yeah,
where's my pupil who idolizes me and stuff like that? Even Crimson Viper, like, you know, of course, with a character redesign, like, I feel she would return. Yeah, there's still a lot of characters they could pull from, man. Like, I feel like Elena should come back. Like, the African character, she was very, very nice to me. Dudley, I'm not too sure.
Dudley's amazing.
Dudley was an amazing character, like, yes. And I do feel like, especially since, you know, Shadowloo characters are gone now, you know, so Balrog, Vega, Bison, Fong. I mean, I don't think that counts for Sagat since he left them, or Birdie since they both left the group. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see some of these characters again. But please, yeah, don't make Birdie.
No, I don't think Birdie's going to come as DLC.
Birdie could stay home.
Yeah. Street Fighter 5 was the last hurrah. I'm sorry.
When I saw him, I wanted to do what Buddy did in the Street Fighter Alpha movie. I hated him.
Yeah, Birdie. Yeah, they tried. It's not working. It's not. He can go. It's fine. He can be retired. I did ask y'all to piggyback off Tim's statement to kind of give like your thoughts about who you think is going to show up in the inevitable season passes. My picks, real quick. I only really had 3 that really kind of like I feel like they have to be in, and then I'm open to your guys' other suggestions. I do agree with Tim. I think Sean has to be in it at some point. You know, when it comes to this whole thing of ushering a new generation, like, would it not make sense, like you said, as Ken's protege, of introducing these younger fighters for him to kind of take on that mantle of like the new Shoto character, right? Of like he has, just his own like unique style and unique flair. Even in Street Fighter 3, it's like he didn't fight as a copy and paste of Ken. Like he was unique enough to stand in his own way. And because I want Sean to come back, it also would make sense for an older Sakura to come back. Because we're so used to seeing Sakura in high school uniform after high school uniform after high school uniform. What does Sakura in her 20s look like, right? And again, she's like she's an offshoot. Oh, I can't hear you. Tell me what you said.
Remember, she's a flight attendant now.
Right. But I'm sure she's still fighting. And I think it would be interesting to see, again, what is a Sakura in her 20s like, 1. 2, we know that she's really close friends with Dan. So is it something where she has incorporated some of his fighting school techniques along with the traditional Hado techniques, to kind of have her own unique moveset? I think, again, if we're pushing forward for this next generation without aging out the older characters too much, how do you not have Sakura and Sean in your plans? And then, sorry, what you said?
My bad. I feel like they gave us Sean with that tutorial DLC character.
The
default character. You know what I'm saying? That's what they did. They said, we can't give you Sean, but we'll give you this guy. You see?
No.
Yeah.
They gotta bring that song, bro. They gotta bring that song proper. And then my last pick, which I told you on the group chat, is Makoto. I think she has a really cool design. She has like this strong arm style that I think is just dope. You know, I've loved her even her voice acting. You know what I'm saying? In the Street Fighter 4 games, I just think she's just really cool. I don't have any deeper reason other than I think she's a really cool design. And then Tim, I know you gave yours, and then Jory, what would be yours in terms of characters you want to see?
Sean number one, because it's just like it's been overdue, man. It's like, come on, man, just do it, man. Sean, I'm an Adon fan because I used to use Adon. I wanted to see Adon. I want to see Adon with a remake, and I want Adon to have some character progression. I feel like he doesn't need to be the same guy that he was anymore. You know, if you're gonna do a character design, let it be him and give him some level of solace and clarity, or finding himself in a way. You know, because he was kind of like chasing Sagat's mantle, because I guess, you know, he was bitter that Sagat got beat by Ryu. So, you know, maybe he should find some solace within himself, to, you know, kind of like be more of a. Or, because Sagat is already that guy, give him, maybe he has different aspirations to where you can meet the level of solace. He has some level of confidence in himself now. He doesn't care about being, taking Sagat's mantle the same way he wanted to, like vengefully. Maybe he wants to achieve it with the level of nobility or something that's going to give him an interesting character arc, you know?
Okay. A character revamp.
Yeah. Sea Viper. Only because I felt like Sea Viper was the best out of the 4 series. Her and Jury were the best new characters out of the 4 series.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think so. So with her, I wanted to see that come back, man. Do you guys know the story behind Rufus? He was supposed to be called King Cobra, and he was supposed to be a brother. Yeah, but listen. He was supposed to be a rival to Ken and Ryu.
I mean, he is Ken's rival.
But not in this one. But now he's a joke. A joke. You already got Dan. Like, you don't need another Dan and Blanca, and you know what I'm saying? It's enough. And then you have Sodom, whatever his name is, Saddam, whatever. Not Saddam, but whatever. I don't know his name.
He's just an NPC character and a stage.
Yeah, you know, like, man. I think I'm forgetting Elena.
Okay, you guys both want Elena.
Yeah, because I think she was also a cool character too, man.
I don't know if I'm alone on this. I kind of feel like Elena, I don't feel as neutral about her as I feel about Rose. Like, everybody seems to love Rose, and I'm just like, I think Rose's fighting style is terrible. But I don't think Elena does, like, enough for me. Like, she kind of reminds me of, like, an Eddie Gordo in terms of fighting style, but not as cool.
But she was always that style.
No, I know, but it's just not as visually appealing, if that makes sense. It's just like, this is kind of cool, but
no, that's not true. That's not true. You have to watch her. You have to watch her in Street Fighter. And when she was DLC, well, she's in Street Fighter 4. It's DLC. Yeah, you have to play as her. She has a very interesting playing style.
Yeah.
And I think even now she'll be even more interesting as a character now, the way Street Fighter plays. So I think she's perfect. I think all those people we listed will be perfect for this new version. Makoto, Elena, Sean, and Adon. I mean, those guys will be perfect. To be honest with you, because you can do so much with them now. You can take so much that was not utilized correctly from the other characters and just add it to them. Sea Viper as well. I think AKI is going to play like Fang.
Yeah.
But she's going to play like Fang, but not exactly. She's going to be way more interesting than Fang. I think she's going to be a combination of Fang and the Capri with a little bit of Rose in a way.
She gives me Lady Deathstrike type of vibes.
Lady, she thinks she's gonna be or she might actually play like Fang and Vega.
Oh, Vega. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually interesting, dog. She might actually play like because I seen a picture of her, and she's she's crouched in the corner on top of like a guardrail. So I'm like, wait, you know what? That's gonna be a
like
crazy
Vegas
play style.
successor. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that does make sense because, remember, like I said, Ed's fighting style is Balrogs infused with Psychopaths. So you have a Vega-like character, you have a Balrog type character fused with Bison. So you kind of basically brought Shadowloo back in a spiritual way, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I get what he says about Adon because, that was always the difference between Sagat and Adon. Like, 'cause remember, they both, Sagat, was like, oh, I'm the tiger. Adon was the crazy jaguar.
Right.
So, Adon was always more like the super fast, aggressive, like the rush down type of person. And, Sagat was the heavy power, like tiger uppercut, tiger, boom, in your face type of feel. So I do feel like seeing Adon again, that actually would be very, very good. Because I do feel like the way they handled Sagat in Street Fighter V, that was a good closer for him. Like, he's a man who's seen the error of his ways and he wants to do better in the world.
Yeah. So, he also still feels like that dude, if that makes sense. Like Sagat, he's never felt like those characters where it's like after a while. Like Bison's kind of, lost a little bit of his luster over the years. Where I feel like Sagat's always been like, nah, man, this character's just solid. There's nothing to critique.
I do feel they're going to bring back more Metro City Final Fight characters because I remember in Street Fighter, the fourth season pass, that cop, Lucia, I've never heard of this woman in my life. The one who did the fireball kicks, he was like a police officer.
Oh, expect Eagle to come back. I know who you're talking about. Yeah. She's in there. So, Eagle's going to come back too, yeah.
So I definitely do feel like they're going to pull a lot of Final Fight characters. I am hopeful for more rival school characters because I do feel like that would be dropping the ball for what you did with
Akira. Yeah,
and bring anybody back. I do because you've shown that you can integrate their fighting styles, those gimmicks from those games into this. Like when they did the juggles, I was like, oh, they could do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they're smart, this would be the time to really start laying down the groundwork to be like, hey, by the time we get to Street Fighter 7 or again whatever expanded storyline version we get as DLC for Street Fighter 6, Rival Schools is here. We're integrating this subworld, so to speak, as like the way we do with Final Fight into Street Fighter. Like we're just absorbing our other properties into this world because it makes sense. It just makes sense. Like it's not too much of a reach, for it to kind of be incorporated into Street Fighter. All right, so I think that's good as far as just generally talking about Street Fighter 6 and the things that we expect to see and the things we like and didn't like. And because we're making this a Street Fighter focused episode, I kind of wanted to give a bit of nostalgia for people who kind of grown up on it like us. All right, so one of the questions I have written down for us to discuss today was, what got you guys into the Street Fighter franchise? And I'll start with myself. I was a kid that kind of accidentally fell into a lot of these franchise games. Right, so even though I had a Super Nintendo as a kid, and even though I went to arcades as a kid, when you're like 7, 8, maybe even 9, Street Fighter is not necessarily the thing that grabs your attention as a kid. Right, I'm still playing Ninja Turtles. I'm still, doing Disney-related things. Pokemon's really big in my mind at that point. And I remember, ironically, what got me into Street Fighter was a fighting game that was Street Fighter adjacent, which was the Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter for Super Nintendo. They had one for Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, and it was the Ninja Turtles, Shredder's in there, his daughter. You had a couple of other really unique. There's this shark character that was brought back in future Ninja Turtle games, and it's a fighter. It's a fighting game. It's still a tournament style. There's a winner. It's basically the Ninja Turtle Street Fighter, and I really really enjoyed it. And I just remember okay, this is the fight, my first introduction to fighting games. And I think my mom kind of picked up on that. So that following birthday or Christmas or whenever, she comes home with Street Fighter 2 Turbo Edition. And I remember, putting in my Super Nintendo, I'm like, cool, I have a new game. Hooray. And what stood out to me was just these very amazing character designs, right? Like, I think that's something that kind of gets understated about Street Fighter because it's been around for so long, especially from Street Fighter 2. I'm like, you have these guys that are shooting fireballs out of their hands. You have this girl who's kicking so fast you can't keep track of it with your eyes. You have this man who can stretch his limbs and teleport. You have this guy who's punching the air so fast that literal sonic booms come out of it. And I just remember, like, what is this? This is amazing. This is super, super cool. And it was kind of a wrap from there. I think after that, that was kind of like my main go-to for a while. I think the EX series kind of got my attention in arcades. And what really sealed the deal for me was Marvel vs. Capcom. X-Men vs. Street Fighter, actually, too. Between those two, I was sold. I'm like, these people are just really cool. And over the years, the designs have just kind of kept bringing me back. Like, these characters are just designed and look so dope. And even when they're, like, otherworldly in the sense of, like, yes, we know humans can't shoot fireballs out of their hands, it seemed very grounded of, like, this isn't Dragon Ball Z, it's an anime-esque. It's like, no, these are fighters. These are fighters who have just evolved their skills to the peak of their abilities. And that's my story with Street Fighter. How about y'all?
My story with Street Fighter, it started with Street Fighter 1 and then 2. But then you brought back a heavy nostalgia moment, X-Men versus Street Fighter. Like, that arcade era was absolutely beautiful, man. It really was. And the follow up with Marvel vs. Capcom 1, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But as I started to get into like heavier systems, I didn't play Third Strike till later on in life. But what really, really brought me back in the cement of like Street Fighter is Street Fighter 4.
Okay.
Street Fighter 4, like I said, we played all the legacy games, but like this is what made me like, all right, I really want to, as an adult, I want to invest into this series from now on. So that's where like I was like invested, because like yes, like we played games back in the day, but we just played them to play it. But then now I'm learning more about story lore. I'm learning more about like the backstory behind characters. Like I'm becoming mentally invested into this. So it was Street Fighter 4, and then of course Super Street Fighter 4 came around. One of my favorite characters was like introduced Jury. Like I just love fighting style, bro. It was just like it was just like I was just so captivated by her. And of course, Kid came around. Then Ultra Street Fighter 4 came around, where they brought Yin and Yang back, and that's where like the nostalgia was hitting me again. It's like, bro, I love these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Those two twins, like those were my favorite characters from back in the day. And then of course, like a more souped up Akuma. Like, so all right, I'm loving this factor. So like that's what really like got me into the series.
Okay. What about you, Jordan? What got you into Street Fighter?
First, it was I remember going to my cousin's house and they had the Dreamcast. So they had Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going around and just telling me like the lore. I said, yo, who is this guy? Oh, this is Ryu. It's okay. Because I remembered Ryu faintly, but I just wasn't interested in Street Fighter because at the time we had the Super Nintendo and I was exposed to this stuff. I would see Ryu, but then I see the newest version of Ryu, which was on the Dreamcast. And I was like, yo, I'm not playing this version. You crazy?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had that, and then Marvel vs. Capcom 2. That was Marvel vs. Capcom that was on the Dreamcast, and seeing Ryu doing the Kamehameha wave.
Essentially,
like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They kind of like made me and I always liked Ryu because of he was just cool looking dude. He had the red gi, torn sleeves, signifying that he's definitely from the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'm saying? With the torn sleeves, ripped sleeves, and then he had his best friend Ken.
Walks around the world in karate gi. Yeah, 80s.
Yeah. And like I had the comic books. So a lot of the lore was being built up because around the time I was collecting the comic books. I'm like, oh yeah, here's a comic book about Ryu and it's drawn in a style. I'm like, yo, this guy's style is amazing. Alvin Lee was the artist. And then it would just grow and grow because now Marvel at that time I had a GameCube and SNK versus Capcom 2 came out. And that was when I was like, yo, I think I like this. I like both series. Seeing the interaction, the art style, the flavor and the passion that they put in that game, man. I was just like, yeah, man, this is it for me. Then time went on because I didn't really know how to play the game to the degree that I do now. Because I would pick characters that I always wanted to play as Ryu, but I wasn't able to do any of his moves without any assist buttons because I was pretty young. Street Fighter was just super difficult to me at that time. Doing back and forth, doing back and forth, 2D fighters was difficult for me for whatever reason. I was better at 3D because I felt like I had more control. Mm-hmm. So then, fast forward, we get to Street Fighter 4, just like Tim. This is when I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to invest in this game. And Ultra Street Fighter 4 or Super Street Fighter 4?
So essentially it went Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 4 Arcade Audition, and then Ultra Street Fighter 4.
All right, so Super Street Fighter 4. That's when I already knew about the lore and Ryu and Ken and all the other characters, but now this new era is when I can actually be involved in a new start, a new beginning. But Street Fighter didn't come. Street Fighter wasn't here for years. So Street Fighter was gone for a while, and now it's back on the 360. People on the PlayStation can get it as well. So now I'm doing Ryu's best special, the Metsu Shoryuken, the most impactful attack. And then from that part,
I guess spoiler alert: when we get to our most iconic moves, it's in my top 5. But go on.
The black and when it transfers to the black and white,
the sound effect, yeah.
Oh nah, and how fast
the rumbling,
hits you.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was because Ryu. I always liked Ryu more than Ken. You know what I'm saying? Because I relate more to Ryu and the tranquility and being calm at times. You know what I'm saying? But most of the time, I could be more like his counterpart. But other than that. That was when I really liked the game, man, because I felt like I was actually able to do strings with Ryu and be more involved with the game. Around college time, you know what I'm saying? It was just perfect, man. I got my own car. I could go home and come back whenever I want. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, it hit me with that level of ecstasy because now it had me thinking about, man, look how crazy Marvel vs. SNK 2 was. And I a lot of people are going to hate me for it, but I kind of like it more than I do Marvel vs. Capcom.
You're not the only person that I've heard say that. So
yeah, because
you're not in the minority as much as you think you are.
I really like that game because it had so much Ultra Rugai or Shin Akuma. Because Shin Akuma did not exist to the degree he did. His redesign came from SNK. With the white hair and the purple gi. It came from SNK and Ultra Ruga as well. So I just, hats off to the artists that came up with that inception because they gave us something we didn't know we needed.
To be honest, with the revival of SNK recently, I feel, and especially the way Disney is outfitted with all their properties, I do foresee a SNK versus Capcom revival.
That's something.
Oh my good fam, it's gonna be crazy.
That is the best thing you could give us right now because, especially how Marvel vs. Capcom ended with Infinite, and like I said, the way Disney's acting right now, I don't see that one ever happening in a long time. So I do feel like Capcom versus SNK 3 or whatever you want to call it is the best decision you could get. Is what you could do.
I don't think it's off the table. Like I said, we all know that essentially Capcom is doing a little bit of damage control to their fighting game division with Street Fighter 6. And I think once they feel like they're in a comfy space, right, I think the sales of Street Fighter 6 will be a pretty good indicator. I would not be surprised if they start exploring those other crossover properties that they have. Like Capcom's gotten a lot of flack for not really, for being such fighting game pioneers, not having a solid fighting game fighter for some time.
Possibly to revive Darkstalkers, bro. Like they just sleeping on so many.
Like, hold on, Tim.
I don't know. They should, but I don't know.
Hold on.
Cause I remember,
Hold on,
like,
man.
I've watched a couple of videos about the history of Darkstalkers, and the thing is, for as iconic as the designs are, Darkstalkers has never sold well. Like, Morrigan has kind of transcended the franchise, but the property itself has not sold well.
One of my favorite series, the OVA. You know how I came to like that game real quick. There was an OVA. I wind up, YouTube was like a gold mine. You would just find all kind of crazy anime at that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, classic YouTube, I'm looking for something to watch. I just finished watching some Naruto. I'm like, man, and then something comes up on the feed. I'm like, what's this? Hey, this is not the Darkstalkers that they gave us when we was kids. That was trash. The American Darkstalkers?
Mm-hmm.
Yo, go ahead, go watch that.
The animation is horrible, horrific. Nightmare fuel.
Trash. So now, right, I'm looking at this and the guy who designed the Gundam series, Gundam Wing, designed the characters for this. And not only that, I think it's the same animation team. Dog, watch the first episode, the intro, crazy. So they had my boy Donovan. Get zoom in right here, man. My boy Donovan. Look at his artwork, dog. You.
It's fire. I mean, your blurred background make it kind of hard to see, but I know the designs is it's fire.
Yeah, but
and don't forget the people that are listening to us. They're not gonna...
yeah. They can't see. Okay, so I'm gonna describe the picture. It's amazing. That's best I could do.
Amazing.
They're sleeping on a lot of stuff. They're gonna give us Exo Primal. Like, fam, what?
I think I wouldn't, to Capcom's credit, to shoot them some bail, which I don't do often. I think they're probably trying to figure out the best way to bring back Darkstalkers because they've seen such a demand for it, like, over the years. And there's been so many staple fighting game, either content creators or even fighting game tournament people who have spoken out over and over about wanting something Darkstalkers really.
Add blood.
Yeah, we'll see. You
don't have to go crazy, but let that be your Mortal Kombat if you want to differentiate.
Yeah, it comes down to sales.
They're not going to, but
yeah, it comes down to sales. It's at the end of the day, capitalism, is the seed of all things. So if they feel like they can make some money off of it, we'll see it, but time will tell.
Yeah. Exo Primal, right? Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Give them Exo Primal. Let's not make a remaster of a game that was actually Starship Troopers inspired, pretty good, where it was a little bit of Starship Troopers and Monster Hunter all in one. What's the game called again?
I don't even know the reference. I don't know what that is. So you on your own.
You killed bugs. Tim, you could probably hit me with it. You killed bugs, man.
Oh, I know.
Part 3 was.
I know what you're talking about. I've watched the show. Yeah, I can't recall the name, man. But then, like I said, man, like they have so many IPs that they can really just truly bring back that golden era.
Right.
And I feel like that. I mean, yes, like Street Fighter is the flagship. Okay. And then now that you fuse some of your main worlds like Final Fight, Rival Schools into that, it's in a very good place that I feel that they should really just truly maximize on that potential.
Yeah.
And of course, even in terms of future crossovers, like I said, SNK is ready. SNK came back strong with Rev 2. They came back strong with that. They came back strong with that. Even Samurai Showdown, even though Samurai Showdown is not really like my thing, but the reception of it was very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good. I heard it sold well. So, even in terms of a future crossover, it's available. So I just feel like, bringing back Darkstalkers actually makes a lot of good sense for the fighting game catalog. And, just like how Jordan said earlier, after Third Strike, Street Fighter was on a real big hiatus for years in terms of a next mainline game. So I do feel like give that same treatment to Darkstalkers, bro. Mm. So, we'll see. We'll definitely see.
Especially in the new engine, the RE engine, man. It
would look amazing. It would look. I think that's to kind of get back on Street Fighter, but to Jory's point, I think one of the things that has kind of stayed the course of time with Darkstalkers is like those character designs. Those character designs immediately implant themselves in your brain. Like, again, Morgan has been the most popular one, but like when you really go on that roster, it's a lot of just like very unique but fire. That the character design, you're just like, wow, that's just they're just designed. It's like, Capcom, I feel like had like a peak, let's just say, design era. Let's just, for lack of a better phrase. And I think Darkstalkers benefited from that probably the most out of all their offshoots. That and maybe rival schools in terms of like, wow, who are these characters? I need to know what this is. Like, I'm walking in the arcade, like, what is this? Let me go put a quarter in and find out, But I do think it's interesting to get back to Street Fighter. I do think it's interesting how, for all of us, Street Fighter 4 was kind of the thing that like really got us all back on the wave. Like, I think to Dory's point about college, like I remember playing with my roommates. Like, Street Fighter 4 was balanced enough at some point where it was newbie friendly. You could really get into combos. There was a lot of diversity. When it came to like the upgrades with each version, there was like just enough added to make it feel fresh again. To the point by the time you get to Ultra Street Fighter 4, it's just like, bro, you have everything. It's like the Smash Brothers Ultimate of Street Fighter at that point. You have 2 supers, every character you can think of from the Street Fighter 2 era, Evil Ryu, Oni, just like Tim said, the return of fan favorites. And I think it was a great unification circle, I guess, of people who have been longtime fans of any Street Fighter property or spinoff. Given all that, do you guys feel like where the franchise is going or has been, especially with Street Fighter 6, do you think that there's enough in the tank, lore-wise, story-wise, to kind of keep Street Fighter going?
That's why I said
for a reboot. This is George.
Especially from because I did watch the story online, especially how the story ended, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, is definitely giving me endgame Burnout vibes. Like, because like just like how you mentioned earlier, they don't want to introduce a new big bad. They don't. They're very fearful of that. Bison was like their Aizen.
Yeah.
And they definitely don't. They don't know. It kind of gives me the feeling they don't know what to do after him. So, because I was like, wait, so that's it? I mean, for those who played in the upcoming future, I was like, wait, that's really it? That's it? So it's just like everything, the focus really now is just this hub world and create your character this and, just go on to online transition, which I do feel like, yes, like as story-wise, I gave it like a 5. It's like, that was very hollow, very, very hollow to me. So like, yes, lore-wise, bro, to be honest, if they play this, the character customizations the character roster right, they could end it right here.
Okay.
They actually could. They actually really could just end it right here. Depending how this final roster look 5 years from now. I mean, because as you can see, like a lot of the flagships are starting to really come to that burnout point because, I hope this is not too much of a tangent, but look at Tekken 7. You finally X'd out a major character.
Yeah.
Now it's just the final 2. So it's like, all right, so after Tekken 8, or however Tekken 8 ends, where do we go from here?
Right. Do we go from here? Like, is there enough of a story to, yeah.
So that is a very valid question. So like I said, I stand by my statement. Depending how this final roster looks, they could end Street Fighter with.
Okay.
For me, for the longest time, right, just learning about storytelling and how stories work, I was like, man, one of my favorite things in my childhood was wrestling. The storylines for wrestling, I feel like they're so good when you go back and you watch those seasons and you're like, man, this was some great writing, right? I would essentially try to aim to write my fighting games like a soap opera. That way you can have your fighting game soap opera. Because those characters, as much as you hate soap operas, it's almost weird. Like you can always find an entry point and not fully know everything that's going on, then get caught up to know what's going on. I hated watching soap operas, but I noticed that they did that very, very well. Like I would go in and that sick day where you guys pretend y'all sick. You call your parents, and then now Woody Woodpecker's done. The Young and the Restless shows up. All my children, and you're bored out your mind. You're waiting for the after school program to come on, man. Mm-hmm. So now you're watching, and you're like, Maddie and Sarah. Now they find out that they're related. What do they do now? And you know what I'm saying? Like, if you could find a way to make it fighting game-esque, I think they don't have enough juice, man, because they've written themselves into like this strange realm, and it didn't have to be like that. You had many chances to admit your mistakes, because it's a very simple thing. Like if you guys now have a well sought out, well planned out, and you guys want to get rid of the Ono effect, because Ono destroyed technically destroyed the franchise. Because the damage control started to roll in after Street Fighter X Tekken. That's when the damage control.
The damage control? I don't know.
No, that's when the snowball started to roll downhill. Then you get Street Fighter 5.
Oh, you mean the damage? Okay, damage like as
the snowball started to build up at that point.
You said damage control. I'm like, nah, they weren't fixing it. I feel like they were burying themselves.
Yeah, basically the snowball started to roll downhill, right? Because now, at that point, people like playing the game like, yo, why are these characters locked? And then now I have to buy a gym to do extra combos? You know what I'm saying? So now you got a dude pressing the one button doing 60 hit combos on you, all because of one gym. You know what I'm saying? That was and then you had to pay for the costumes. Not only that, now the characters that were on this, you have to pay for. As DLC, we wasn't having that. People, that was it. And then after that, there's characters you couldn't get that was on the PSP, if I'm correct.
Yes, you are correct. There was a couple of console exclusive characters.
So now you have
the 3DS version had something completely different too. It was the Kingdom Hearts effect basically for Street Fighter.
So now you have that. Now then you got the crazy problem that was Street Fighter 5 that happened, that would birth, and then you counted all the loss at that point. So now your story is in a place, you have new management, a new vision. You guys want to redesign characters, make it cool, and have new entries. I think your best thing is to reboot the series, because the story doesn't even make sense to you guys. And you have nothing to lose, right? You're on a new engine. The story's not as good as it wants to be. You say, don't reboot it too much. No, reboot it because you have longevity now. Because as a business, you want to have something that's going to be cohesive, right? Now that's where it's going. The whole industry is moving towards storylines that are actually good. You know what I'm saying?
Me and Anthony had a big talk about this one time, because that's how I felt about the Devil May Cry series. Because, to me, I enjoyed the reboot. I enjoyed it a lot. It brought back to the focus of where it mattered, Dante and Virgil, and then even I did like the changes of how they're no longer half demon, half human hybrids, but they're half human, half devil, half angel, Nephilim, and then it made sense in terms of the weapons. He had half angel weapons and he had demon weapons. So the demon weapons were more heavy hitters, the angel weapons were more swift and elegant, but then 60 combos after two buttons. And, I really enjoyed the story. But then, of course, the controversy of the character designs, or this and that, or the classic this and that, so that they kind of just washed it away in part 5.
I think what didn't help also is that they didn't seem to be as receptive to honoring the spirit of the original. It was kind of they kind of made a point to be because there's that now muchly over criticized scene where Dante has on the white wig and he's just nah, never, and tosses it off. Where it's I understand you're doing a reboot that's clearly going in a different path, but you don't gotta spit in the face of what came before it. You can just be yeah, we're just doing our own thing. But go ahead.
The whole game, he gets the white hair.
He does.
I ain't gonna lie. AK-47. That reboot. Can I say AK-47? You're not gonna get in trouble?
You can.
Yeah. Our AK-47. That reboot, man. Close at arms. Like, close. No silence or nothing.
But
Call up a couple of boys.
Let me ask: Did you AK-47 it because you were on that side of the majority that just didn't like the redesign of Dante? Because I think to Tim's point, I think if you needed to breathe new life into a franchise that, to be honest, I kind of stagnated at that point. This does seem to be the way to go.
It stagnated because
the combat was still fire. Like, it wasn't bad combat.
I didn't like it because there were certain enemies you had to use certain weapons on. It's like it disrupted the flow of combat of you actually just becoming the organizer of combos. So that was one thing I didn't like about it. The concept overall, the story is a good story. It's not a bad story. The way the world compared to the previous Devil May Cry games, like the world was more like I felt like it was
the Bloodborne world.
What? For what? Devil May Cry what?
Yeah, bro, like you realize the past Devil May Cries, like they all had it's outside of, I would say, Devil May Cry 4, like everybody had like a Bloodborne-ish type of world, bro. So like,
I can't get mad at them for them to be the first guys to do it. Like they had like a Victorian era influence. I mean, I can't get mad at them. Devil May Cry 5 didn't do a good job because they didn't give us the consistency of what we got from the first fight with Nero when
Devil May Cry 5 was a COVID world production.
Yeah, so it's like the fight with Goliath was probably my favorite fight because the stage transitioned to like three stage. I thought I was gonna get that throughout the game. Yeah. Where but we got nothing like it.
But then that's why I said I favored the reboot because I did like the whole limbo transition. Like, you got pulled into this pocket dimension that still kind of influences the world, but not really. And then you went into the digital world as well. Like, so big up Digimon. Like,
and I'm not like a Ninja Theory interpretation. Like, I don't like their art direction. Yeah, I mean, if I could say that, like, I can't play Dark Souls for more than an hour because it's just too druid for me. I like light, I like colorful things. I'm not like really.
That's what the reboot.
Music. What
reboot was colorful?
No, it was like cocaine colorful, like Matt or hardcore Henry colorful. Like, not for me. It wasn't for me, man. It wasn't for me, dog. Because 4 was colorful. 4 was just as colorful, if I'm gonna be honest with you.
4 had a jungle stage. 4 had an ice.
4 was colorful. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I just didn't like I didn't like the way I didn't like the combat. The combat was cool for if it was something else, but for me knowing it was a Devil May Cry reboot, I'm like, nah, it wasn't. I didn't like the direction they were going. It kind of went like mad political. Like, I didn't want sucker punch influenced game. You know what I'm saying? I like those storylines, but not to the degree for something that I really behold. Like, I didn't want a super I didn't want like a, how do I say it? Like, I didn't want it to go in that direction of a film that would show on FX on a Sunday rerun. That's what I felt it was. Like, the whole sepia tint.
So you feel like, I guess you feel like aesthetically, you're just like, I just wasn't.
Aesthetically, Aesthetically, it wasn't
fair.
me. Dante was not likable. Dante was not likable at all. Like, he was just like, he wasn't charming. Like, he wasn't that guy, man. That's like how you guys feel about Ezio compared to Altair. Classic Dante was Ezio, and then this guy's Altair because he just wasn't hitting for me. I didn't like what they did with Virgil. They made Virgil like compared to the Virgil and Dante. Like, I'm like, they made him like a villain from like what were Heroes that played on ABC. Like.
Yeah, the Virgil part, they kind of dropped the ball off.
It reminded me of Charm, dog.
I will give you that point. But I did feel like the reboot had a lot of potential, man. And that's what I was kind of upset about. It had potential. Because, like I said, just like how Street Fighter was, currently still is, Devil May Cry was all over the place, bro. And then you introduce this whole new character, which you find out is your nephew. But then the dad is back. So it's like you got all these characters, but you don't know what to do with them. You don't know what to do with them.
And for me, I told, like I said, like when you get to that point, because they clearly did not plan for it to be the way it is. These guys, you know what I'm saying? So if you know you didn't plan as a company, go back to formula, like my friend Norman Osborn says, man. Like, go back to formula. Devil May Cry 3 was the one that saved your series from 2. You go back to formula. That's why I think I'm not as fearful as Metal Gear Solid as I am, because I feel like, but they're not going to change much things. But if they were to say, yo, you guys, we're going to reboot Metal Gear Solid series, we're gonna make it better. And if they were to give me these things, we're gonna have what we did in 5, but add it in and put it in 3's world with the same intensity. And imagine if we got the same exact thing. Oh man, I'm all for it. But you having problems with your storyline, you don't know what to do with your characters. It's because you guys are on a time clock. You guys don't have the best atmosphere to even conduce those type of thoughts, to get that clarity, because your work schedules aren't good. You know what I'm saying? Your people get sick. You have to have there's no special insurance. You guys working crazy hours. So do something that's going to be profitable versus you burning out your entire animation team, your entire staff. Do something that makes sense. Go back to formula. You know what? We're going to give you a Devil May Cry 3 reboot. We're going to write everything to where now everything makes sense. We get Virgil. We don't have to put a number on it. Just call it Devil May Cry, whatever, Dante's Awakening. Boom. Now we get imagine my favorite fight was the Angry and Rudra. Rudra fighting Devil May Cry 3, the two twin blades. Because the art direction for me, the guy who did Shin Megami Tensei was involved in drawing the characters for Devil May Cry 3. And I thought those, for me, were my favorite character designs in any Devil May Cry game. The bosses looked cool. They played cool. My favorite fight, and the stages, the set pieces, they were just like, even though there was a lot of backtracking, imagine that in Devil May Cry 5's world graphics. You could have did so much more. You could have had stages that were interacting, kind of like what you were planning to do with Part 5 in the beginning with the Goliath fight. You could have did so much things, interacting, stages changing in each boss fight phase. Because now you can improve on the boss fights that you already had, And I think Devil May Cry 3 was the best the best unexpected story that we got from a game that style ever. The cutscenes were crazy. The storytelling was crazy. The twists were crazy. You had everything. So these companies, and if they want to have the longevity that they're seeking, and they want to have these ongoing DLC, you have to almost. So if we're going to keep doing this, right, we're going to have to go back to formula. We're going to have to actually flush out our story. Because for me, Street Fighter's story made me play the game. Mortal Kombat's story made me love the game even more, because at heart, I like story. I'm getting both out of that from a fighting game too, Go ahead, Tim.
I think... I'll just say quickly about Devil May Cry before I think it's this point. I think as somebody who, as y'all both know, I'm more of a casual observer from the outside looking in. I do think, to Jory's point, the one game that made me like, oh, this game might be kind of cool and I might want to play this was Devil May Cry 3. Because I remember seeing the cutscenes on YouTube. I was like, is he dancing with as he's like, this looks insane. Are they fighting so fast in the rain that the rain can't keep up? This looks... What is this game? Is Devil May Cry? So, sorry, I had to throw in my little 2 cents. Like, I guess reboots aren't always a bad thing, or a prequel. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah.
To go back to what Jory's point, I like how you said back to formula, and I feel that's what Mortal Kombat is doing with the recent one, Mortal Kombat 1. They did kind of realize the time thing kind of messed things up, the time skips, and then, Anthony's point, the multiple forms of media. I feel like that's what Street Fighter probably needs to do as well. Because remember, when we were growing up, Street Fighter was also an anime. Mm-hmm. And then now like Joe Jory said, a comic which showed the actual events of 3 that I did not even know about. Like, because even when I was looking up characters, like, yeah, they said 3, oh yeah, this happened. But this got retconned. Oh, but we don't really have official information about that. So it's kind of like what really actually happened. I do feel like, yes, like, I mean, I doubt Capcom would do it at this point, but because especially the way how the story ended. But I do kind of felt like, well, damn, like, maybe they should have gone back to formula. They should have probably just had something that could have just revamped all of this to really show the beginnings of Ryu and Ken's rivalry with training under Goken when Goken was attacked by Akuma, and which sparked the whole feud of like,
where's Goken?
Yeah, I think
how can Gin stop the raging demon?
Yeah, I think that's kind of tricky, right? Because as you guys were talking, I was thinking, I'm like, man, like Street Fighter again has probably the weakest connecting plot threads out of all the fighting game franchises. So for me, in contrary to Jory's point, while I do think story, especially in modern day fighting games, is a necessity, you can't not have story these days. It can't just be the classic arcade of everyone kind of has their own canonish entry. But with Street Fighter, it's like, I'm also a person where, like I said, for me, it was the character designs and the fighting styles that got me into Street Fighter, right? So it's like, it's something where I'm like, if they could somehow salvage, what is canon and what's not, I wouldn't mind maybe a Street Fighter 7. Although to Tim's point, I think Street Fighter 6 could kind of be the definitive end proper, because I really like the aesthetic. I like the way they presented the world. It's a lot more urban friendly, modern, kind of like in tune with what's going on right now for a Street Fighter game. But I do think story-wise, if they can't think of something that's going to make sense, then it might be time to revisit their modern-day version of what the Alpha series was, of like let's find a way to kind of tie these plot threads together that we kind of skimmed over, between main entries, and kind of use like the Alpha, like the rebooting of the Alpha franchise to kind of like really kind of take it back. Because at that point, it sets fans' expectations of like, you're going to get younger Ryu, you're going to get Ken with the long hair. Like, we know to expect those things versus like, we're just going to reboot the entire mainline continuity.
Yeah, because I do feel like they're in a very rock and hard place because, like, all right, yes, if you reboot it, then you just basically undid what you did with ending Bison officially.
Yes.
And, like, look at Tekken 7. Like, they finally killed Heihachi after so many near-death situations, and then the Bison's the same thing. Mm-hmm. Bison destroyed, but you found out he had a clone body. He had this, he had that. So it's kind of like it's a lot of back and forth. But I do feel like, yes, they're at a very pinnacle point of how are they going to push this series forward. But, like I said, go back to the original point. It depends on after we don't pay, I would say probably like the next Oh
wait, Tim, you cut out audio wise. Say I'll put one more time.
I was basically saying, like, after we don't spend like $120 in worth of DLC, we will
easily
how this entry ends, and that's it.
And going on the Bison is even more immortalized because of the memes. Yes, you have that meme. Then you have, when your father died, it was a tragic event for you, but for me, it was just Tuesday.
Yeah, he's gonna be hard to replace. He is.
So what do you do?
He is.
Since you have an attachment to the legacy fighters, George Bush the button. Reboot. I'm just saying, like, you have no choice. That's the best option, because now you're gonna give us new characters. Now everybody gonna be like, yo, that announcer man better not be the mainline character. You feel me?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now, that's what it just doesn't make any. I don't see it going. Yeah. You guys were ending Street Fighter, like, what? I'd rather deal with the backlash. Yeah, we're gonna give everybody a reboot. We're gonna make sure the story's right this time. Oh, okay, I'll take that.
I mean, you're right. I mean, it's kind of what they did with Mortal Kombat 9, and I think, again, if the writing's strong enough, like 9 was, we'll get over it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can write a coherent enough story where it's like, it kind of appeals to newcomers and long fans, it could work.
Who wrote 9?
I'm assuming Ed Boon had a huge hand in it the way he has it in every game.
No, but Ed Boon doesn't. Ed Boon's hands slowly through his tweets seem that he's been letting go of the writing direction, and that's probably why we got what we got. He seems happier now.
I actually think it might be the opposite. I think
It might be the opposite.
I think he might have gotten more creative control. Honestly.
Find out for me, man.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get back.
Out.
Yeah, I have this. Again, conspiracy theory per podcast episode. I'm like, I think Ed Boon, story wise at least, right? Because this man is a creative genius. Don't want to take away from him. He might be the Vin Diesel of his own franchise,
or the Kojima of his own franchise, because he wanted to add a tail on Raiden. If you didn't know that, fun fact.
I did know that. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think when someone's kind of engulfed in their own creation a little bit too long, it's just like, you just kind of get a little bit too fantastical. Let's just say with your properties. Kanye uses yeah. You get a little bit too experimental with what's happening.
I'll never forget. I downloaded the album. Like, yo, y'all boys, Kid Ye back, man. All right, enough of the segue, but yeah.
No, you're right. You just felt like a trick at first. You're right. It did. I was like, "Where's the real album?"
No cover, no nothing. Yo,
that's a good point. Next Street Fighter topic, because we do cover anime, and then I have one more to close us out. Right. Going back into the other media properties, I think it's only fair to cover. Street Fighter, Capcom has attempted more than a few times to give us animated versions of Street Fighter. The ones that come to mind was the classic Street Fighter 2 movie. There was also a Street Fighter Alpha movie, and then a Street Fighter 4 movie. Right? Now, to me, it's weird because in all these years, I think Street Fighter 2, the movie, holds up the best out of what we've been introduced to, which is odd because I'm like, there's so many ways in which animation has evolved that you would think that there'd be another Street Fighter movie that told a more coherent story. Because on the flip side, I actually like the Street Fighter Alpha movie aesthetic more. Like, I think the designs and the way the animation flowed was fire. But this whole thing that kind of, there you go. Yeah. I like Alpha. I like Alpha aesthetically wise. But if you look back at the story, it's kind of boring. It's mostly fights kind of start. Ryu starts to struggle with the Hado. He's about to go crazy. They calm him down. Next scene. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's rinse and repeat to the end. And I know you're laughing because you know I'm right. It's just, he begins to fight. The Hado starts to take over. Everyone scramble. They calm him down. It didn't really go anywhere. As Street Fighter 2, it's iconic for a couple of reasons. Some better than others. I think Chun-Li went down in history once that movie dropped. But, you get a lot more, again, it's iconic moments. You get the Psycho Ken. You get the establishment of Vega as like a threat. Because I think at that time we didn't really look at Balrog and Vega as like threatening sidekicks. And I think Street Fighter 2 did a good job of like, no, especially Vega, he is a trained murderer. He's not just like this flamboyant guy with like a little hand claw. He is a murderer.
So he did to that bed?
Well, he did to that room. Chun-Li was bleeding from every pore possible by the time that fight was over. Man. And then, of course, the movie ends with a double Hadouken, which was like unprecedented at that time. Like just the double Hadouken to, it's a little cliche by modern standards, but the Hadouken Bison into his machine that blows up at that time,
Seth, which is Seth.
But I guess I wanted to bounce a question to you guys. Do you feel like one, obviously besides Jory, who's clearly his favorite was Alpha, what was your guys' favorite animation spin-offs, and do you feel like there is enough again going back to the lore there to kind of get like a Tekken Bloodlines version of Street Fighter?
Ooh, that was a great tie-in. I definitely do feel Alpha will be a good way to start, or just even like just reboot it from all the way from one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's this picture of Ryu defeating Sagat that I love, and I put it on my computer. I was like, wow, I would love to see this fight actually taken out. Even like with those old Street Fighter One characters, like where only one of them actually came back, which was Gen.
Mm-hmm.
So like to see early Ryu, early Ken, Gen, Sagat as the final boss. Like to see like, because remember like Dan hates Sagat because Sagat is his father.
Mm-hmm.
Even see how that fight played out, like a young Dan watching his father being murdered and stuff like that, which is, inspires him to create his own fighting style. But even though he's a joke, so I would love to see that, man, because especially what they did with Tekken Bloodlines. Because I at first I was like, why are they starting from Tekken 3? But when I saw how they did the story, I was like, actually, that was a very smart choice.
Yeah.
Because when you really look at the story of Tekken 1 and 2, story wise, yeah, it's a very fast forward story.
Yes.
And then Tekken 3 was the real pinnacle of like a time skip, but then these are the events that actually happened. And then, the way how they tied in the story between Heihachi versus Kazuya, and especially since we all played Tekken at that point, we know the fucking truth.
Mm.
So, and I was like, but ain't no Kazuya slander on this anime, okay? He is a victim.
True. True.
So, but yeah, but like, I would love to see them start all the way from the beginning. All the way from the beginning. Just yeah. Actually, yes. That actually, like what Tekken is doing with Bloodlines, showing us like pinnacle entries and an animated style for you to understand the fullness of the story. I actually think that's a very solid way to go.
That Street Fighter's kind of overdue for its own like animated series, essentially.
I definitely think that will be actually very good.
That's mine. That's mine. That's my Street. For those who are listening, Jory's holding up a copy of Street Fighter 2. That's kind of like
this is Street Fighter 2 V. Yeah, you didn't know.
Mm-mm.
You didn't know. Oh, okay. Well, fun fact: this is pretty good. The only thing is some of the character designs were not too good. But you want to know the best version of Guile?
It's in that movie.
It's in this. No, it's an anime. It's a miniseries.
Okay.
Yeah. It's actually pretty good. Pretty good. So this is actually Street Fighter V is actually kind of like Alpha though, to be honest with you, and that's Ryu with the spiky hair. Yeah. See, the character design wasn't really on the money. The character design wasn't on the money, man. Because you should see Charlie. Charlie looked like Dolph from Magnum PA, just with a ball head. Yeah, he looked like Dolph. That's Charlie. Charlie looked like Charlie from the Chun-Li Legends. Yeah. I couldn't believe it, dog. Yeah. So Street Fighter, as you can see, as I just mentioned, doesn't have a very good track record of live action anything. I remember Bison was that dude from the Gridiron Gang movie, or not Rundown, Walking Tall with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That was Bison. The main antagonist of that film was Bison.
He actually would have been a great Bison. Now that I think about it.
I just couldn't believe it, dog. So yeah, I think with the animation, man, the reason why Street Fighter 2 worked so much is because everybody was okay with everybody was on the edgelords, man. This generation can't handle that well. You know what I'm saying? The edgelord era, like it was edgy. It knew who it was. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
With Street Fighter 2. And everybody was okay with what was going on. You know what I'm saying? You can't get a Chun-Li scene like that now.
Oh, no. Never.
Not that I felt like I needed that scene. You know what I'm saying? Like, just throw some kicks. But you know,
it didn't age as well as I watched it recently. I'm like, they really didn't need to do this. She did not need to be
they didn't
dressed like this or have a nude scene To be honest,
maybe coming out of the shower and getting dressed down in the clothing, that's cool. That fight scene makes sense. But other than that, like, nah, they ain't need to. But you know, they were mad edgy, and I think that always goes well with fighting. That's probably why we have the best fighting movies. Anything comes out of those eras. So with that, this, I don't know, man. It'll be. I feel like if they do it, they'll go for like How to Train Your Dragon type story. It's not gonna be edgy, man. It needs for Street Fighter to work. It'll have to have a director who can handle the story and who can do scales and weights of storytelling, man. Like the guys who did Attack on Titan. Mm-hmm. I would love to see them do Street Fighter. Okay. The first studio. Mm-hmm. The ones who doing Vinland Saga now. Yeah. I would love for them to see them interpret the supernatural. You know, because supernatural attacks. You know what I'm saying? The reason why the animations worked, man, because they had somewhat of a cohesive story, man. We knew Bison was the villain. You know, we knew he had this organization called Shadow Lu. But now, if you're gonna go that route, stuff has to make more sense.
But I guess my question then, and either of y'all can answer, because is it just, are we all on the same page that we don't think that Street Fighter needs to be revisited in live action? Because I think in terms of character design, they're probably some of the most obtainable, where it's like you can kind of get pretty close to accurate with a majority, at least, of the base roster.
Before live action.
No more live action?
That's the pause with Van Damme.
And I feel like, I feel like this is the hill that I'll stay on. I believe anime is anime for a reason. Like, just to let your imagination just soar. And I feel like when it comes to live action, like, yes, we have new technology and it's growing as it come by, but it's just like, there's just certain things that don't hit, bro. Like, you try to give us that live action Dragon Ball. Yeah. We saw what happened with that. So, like I said, bro, like, I don't think we don't never need another live action ever again. I do feel like, you know, with the properties that they do have, animation is the best route. So, like, because like I said, even if they do end this game with this installment, or maybe one more, animation is the best way to go moving forward, because that's honestly what I feel what Tekken is doing with Bloodlines. I feel like they're coming to a close, like, hey, you know, we want to end this series, but let's give you some taste of nostalgia to keep it that longevity.
Okay.
Different forms of media, and anime is the top one. You know, you put it out on Netflix, it was like 5 to 6 episodes, and I loved every last single one.
My main critique is that Paul fought Kuma off screen. I was a little bit upset about that. I wanted to see him fight the bear.
That was bad.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because even though it's obviously like story accurate, I'm like, how did this man defeat an actual grizzly bear? How?
That knows karate, the Shima style, crazy.
How? I need to see it.
Did you know that Tekken had a movie already, right? An animation movie.
Yes.
Yeah, with Kazuya.
Yes.
Yeah, if you didn't see it, that was my first. That was my first video I got from Blockbuster. I rented it. My brother rented it for me, and that movie has a lot of blood, boy. Yeah, there's a part where Kazuya fights a raptor because they're on the island of Dr. Boskanovich, I think. And he tears the raptor open, like he rips the jaw open. And then one of the raptors, spoiler alert, eats Anna, bites her head off. Yeah, like that thing was so bloody. Yeah,
a very loose telling of the.
Bruce is there. Bruce is working for Heihachi, just like in the actual game. All Heihachi's henchmen are working for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, Bro, Bruce coming back. I don't know why you don't like Bruce, dog. But like, kid, Bruce is popular, man.
Fifth now, bro. Like,
Huh?
you can tell when they do swaps.
Yeah.
Fifth is the new black icon character. I mean, Bruce never was a black icon character for Tekken anyway, but you can tell now. Leroy is the better character.
Leroy's
They don't even fight the same. They don't even fight the same, though.
Yeah, because they replaced Bruce with Faku Ramen, like a Muay Thai character for an actual Muay Thai character.
But they hate Faku Ramen. He's played, but he's not well received because they're like, yo, why don't you just give us Bruce? And then a lot of your Tekken players that are like champions are Bruce mains. They had to go to Josie Alto because they forced him, but they're Bruce mains.
Word.
No, if Bruce come back, they're definitely gonna receive Bruce, man. Just like how we want Forrest Law. We got Law, but we want Forrest Law.
I don't know if I wouldn't mind him. I'm not like, oh man, remember that one time when Law's son joined the roster? Like, it's
yeah.
You know, like and fought exactly like his dad. It's like
yeah. Sorry, Joey.
Yeah.
No, I'm not alone.
Rock Lee and Metal Lee.
It's nah, well, Metal Lee is kind of come on, like you setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah,
he's not gonna beat the iconic scene where the weights, unless you give him a Gohan moment.
Yeah, drop them weights.
But yeah, but like the same writers of Street Fighter are writing Boruto right now, so that's why they need to do a reboot.
Lord. But I guess the final topic to close us out on our mostly Street Fighter centric episode. Sorry for y'all who came just for Street Fighter. We good for a tangent. The last topics I wanted to cover in our Street Fighter nostalgia section is what would be 3 to 5 of your guys' like most iconic special moves that have sat with you throughout the Street Fighter franchise. I'll go first. First on my list, like I was saying earlier with Dory, Ryu's Metsu Shuriken. For all the reasons that I said earlier, it's everything. It's the way he hits you. It's the way the characters react. It's the rumbling. Like it almost feels like this must have been what Sagat got hit with. Like I could see how that scar got left on Buddy's chest. I'm like, bro, you are getting your chin rocked by this uppercut. This is the uppercut of all like to the point where I don't even think, for as cinematic as it is, and with the whole muscle flex of Street Fighter 6, I'm like, this is not as good as that Shuriken. That Shuriken to me is timeless at this point. Just everything, the ink streaks, everything about it was just A1. Second thing for me was, to be honest, Juri's Street Fighter 6 critical art. Like I know it's essentially an extended version of her of 4, where she kicks you up, she catches you on her foot, slams you down, and then picks you up, admires your face, and then kicks you away again. It's just, I don't know. It's like in terms of embodying a character, it's just like if I was like, this is Juri, I would just show him that critical art. Like this is who she is. This is what to expect. The flashing eye, the psycho laugh, the attention to things that don't matter. It's just like I think that just kind of like cements her as like this is her character. And then my last picks, because I feel like it, as I was doing research for this, I was like, this is kind of more than 3 or 5. But I actually liked both Yang and Young's Ultra 1 and Ultra 2 in Street Fighter 4. Like they're really flashy. It kind of gives you, again, in terms of character personality, it's like they're twins who fight differently and they don't copy and paste each other with special moves, which would have been like the easy way for Capcom to go about. Like I think it's Yang that like kicks you through the air and almost treats you like a skateboard before kicking you down, and then it's just this flashy, over the top, like just bare knuckle brawling, of just beatdown characters. And I think it kind of cemented their kind of return to the franchise proper, and it's always just kind of sat with me. So that's my list for that. What about y'all?
Well, for me, of course, the Asian demon.
Yeah.
That's a very iconic move. It's like even from like arcade days, like if you were able to somebody that was the ultimate finisher, and all your boys behind cheering you on, and it's just like it's that just that adrenaline rush. My next one, I've always been a more of a Ken fan, so like even like his I'm calling it exactly for what it is, the fire style uppercut.
The Shinyuken.
Just seeing that, like especially like as it's like ultra or super, whatever you like to label it as, it's just such a very cinematic moment, man. Very, very cinematic. Ryu's always been like the more noble-ish type of style character, but Ken was the more flashier one.
Mm-hmm.
So even after that, to go back to what you said, Jury, like, it's just like how you said, that captures that personality. Like, because to be honest, like, you don't even know, like, she's a villain, yeah, but not really.
Right. Anti-hero at best.
Yeah. Like, she's just out there for herself. And then just like like I said, her personality is just so captivating. And you really see that in her moveset. Like, especially like with the supers, like, even like her outros, it's like, bro, like, yes, this is a character.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 3. And you said 2 more, right?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't have to be 5. I'd have said 3 to 5. I think the Raging Demon was a really good pick. I forgot about that. When that screen went black, the first time I was like, wait, what? Like, what just happened?
It's how it happens to you.
And you just see the health bar just.
I would say my last one, the original Spirit Bomb, Oro.
Oh, okay. Wasn't expecting that pick, but yeah, okay. Okay.
No, and I would definitely say it's the Street Fighter 6 version, I would say. Because even from Third Strike, he was always just a very quirky.
Yeah, you mean 5, but yeah.
Yeah, he was always just a quirky character. Like from Third Strike, even to bringing him back in 5, he was just like there was just something very weird about him, and it showed in his fighting style. The man literally fights with one arm. He's holding the turtle. He has some type of anti-gravity type of moves, and then literally his ultimate is like, bro, the man literally uses a Spirit Bomb on you. It's like, you can't beat that, bro.
True.
Can't beat that.
True. All right, Jory, same thing for you. 3 to 5. Special moves that sat with you. Yeah.
All right. Special moves that sat for me. I'm gonna go like this. Number 5, I would say Fei Long's second Ultra.
The 1-inch punch.
Wait.
Yeah.
Because I can feel the tension in his muscles winding up in his entire body and him hitting you, and then just seeing the characters and like I felt it. Like, yo, you got shot with a shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's just that's it. That was 1. 4 I would say Jury. Jury from I still like Street Fighter 4's Jury special, man. Only because she would teleport, like the teleportation effects felt more impactful to me. For 4. 3, a Dawn special. Not the Rising Jaguar, but his second Ultra, where he goes, man, it's downward motion. He goes, yeah, he goes on the top of your head with his knees right here, and he just keeps hitting you with the elbows.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one was wild to me. I was like, yo. That's number 3, right?
That was number 3.
Number 3. Number 2, I'm gonna say Gaio special in Street Fighter 6. But he put the foot right here on your clavicle, then gives you the foot yoken kick with the second foot. Done.
Fair.
I was like, yo.
Fair. That's the coolest you've seen Gal in a minute.
He puts the foot on your chest to kick you in the chin again. I was dog, disrespectful American. I love it, dog. I love it, dog. I was like, yo, I'm happy, man. I'm happy, dog. So, but then we get to the number 1 special. At first, I was gonna give it to Street Fighter 3 because Street Fighter 3's I don't know if it's called the Metsu Shoryuken, but in Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter 3, Third Strike. Ryu's, because the camera would come closer and closer and closer, and then he would finish. That was my favorite one. But then when they did the Metsu Shoryuken, the story, I came from college, the game dropped, came from Miami-Dade, picked up the rapper, I said, okay, whatever. Popped it in, started playing, because, I like Ryu, I'm playing, da-da-da-da-da. At that time, the person got on my nerves, so I said, nah, I could get revenge on homie, dog. That rib cage, bop that. When I did the combo combination correctly, and then the meter went down, and it Metsu, the panel goes black and white, the ink splat, the impact, like I thought he was gonna go into the next dimension because the black and white screen, like reminded me of classic Dragon Ball Z. So I'm like, yo, this guy is dead.
It's almost a Frieza gut punch like Goku does, of just like, it's like, bro, you are crumpled over.
And I was like, there's nothing that hits harder than this special. That special felt so satisfying. There was nothing like it, man. There was nothing like it, man. And then that's it, man.
Okay. I would say my honorable mentions for Street Fighter offshoots, I wrote them down so I didn't forget, would be, again, I'm a sucker for combination attacks. So Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter introduced the double Shinku Hadouken, Ryu and Ken, that you could only do as a combination super. Otherwise, Ken doesn't do the same Hadouken as Ryu. And I was just like, yo, it's like, you just think of yourself a double Kamehameha, basically. You're just like, this is crazy. And then Marvel vs. Capcom, Chun-Li's Kikoho. Because before, I remember the little small blast she would do, or kind of like a little spiral wave that wasn't too big. Marvel vs. Capcom, it encompasses her as a gigantic ball of energy. You're just like, this is, again, like a super move. Like, yo, I didn't know Chun-Li, Chun-Li was capable of doing that. I thought it was just kicks. And it's just like this big old ball of just like energy wave, basically. So, and then last but not least.
Oh, okay. Okay, because I got some honorable mentions.
Okay, I mean, you can go real quick, because we are.
Yeah, real fast. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Oh, you got to finish. You didn't finish.
I was going to go to the next topic. That was my only two honorable mentions. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Me, Bison, because I love the voice actor. From Part 4, where he does "This place shall become your grave." It goes in and then drills the person's gut. That's mine. Number 4. Then El Fuerte's second.
El Fuerte.
Yeah. El Fuerte's second special, where he slides through you, then he spins you around, then while you're spinning, he scissor kicks you. Beautiful, dog.
That's true. He did use your neck as like a. That's the way this thing is crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Because you died. You died.
That's fair.
You died. But all right, that was it.
And then the last topic, real quick, is again 3 to 5 character designs that have just sat with you. So for me, my first pick, again, these are not in any order, but my first pick is going to seem a little unexpected, I guess, in comparison to all the characters we've seen. But I've been a big, long-running fan of Chun-Li. Like I feel like Chun-Li, if I had to make a comparison to Dragon Ball Z, right? Chun-Li kind of gives me Chi-Chi energy, right? Of like, she's cool, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't dislike her, but she's the flagship girl of Street Fighter, right? So you're like, she doesn't stand out as much as necessarily like a Cammy does. Definitely not like a Juri does. She's just kind of there. But I feel like over the years, Chun-Li, they've done just enough with her to make her still kind of have that cool factor of like, again, going back and doing research for this episode, I'm like, her Street Fighter 5 Super was kind of dope. Like, they just do enough with her to kind of still make her relevant enough. Even Street Fighter 6, she's doing like Wing Chun combos and her Ultra. It's just like enough stuff that kind of make her like, this is, again, fighting games leading lady. Like, this is the one. This is the template of which all your other favorite fighting game girl characters was born from. And then, of course, just like the trademark puffs. Everything about her, to me, has just kind of aged well. Next for me, again, controversial pick, Dan. Like, And I'm gonna tell you why. No. I'm gonna tell you why. Dan, to me, might be one of one when it comes to parody characters. Because normally, especially in games like this, right, where it's like you have these characters who train themselves endlessly and get it through the mud. We haven't seen. I remember when I found out what Dan's backstory was. And you're like, here is a man who has been training himself relentlessly to avenge his father's death, and making up his own fighting style, and he can't do it. And like you think of again of every anime trope you've ever seen, every fighting game trope you've ever seen. They get defeated. They find a way to power up and hone their skills and come back with a vengeance. That's never been Dan's story. Seeing the Hadouken for the first time, I'm like, bro, what is happening? What is this? Like, what is happening? And I just felt like he, again, in terms of iconic, he has set the template of like, I don't know if there's another parody character. If I had to pick the fighting game parody character, Dan might be number one for me. I don't think any other brand has done a parody character as well as Dan. I would even argue that some of the love that people give to Johnny Cage comes from Dan. Johnny Cage is just competent. But I see y'all want to give me pushback for I finish my list. So go ahead, tell me why Dan is.
No. I mean, I was gonna say, what's his name? Frank West from.
Wait, Tim, what you say, Tim?
Put that down very well in terms of Dan. I was like, because at first I was like, bro, where are you going with this? But then the way how you wrap that up, I was like, okay, he's right.
Yeah, not everything is a success story. You don't always check off every goal. I'm sorry, Dan is.
I mean, he's Steven Seagal, so
Yeah, but I don't see anything wrong with that. Again, if I'm talking about if a character was designed as a parody character goes, because usually it's over the top, especially in the '90s, fart joke. They're just these frumpy looking characters. It's like no, his backstory is extremely compelling. He wanted to learn how to fight to avenge his dad, and couldn't master the Hado, so he taught himself. Sorry, I find that I just think it's aged well for me. And then I guess real quick, Young and Yang for obvious reasons. I just think it's they everything about even the baseball cap. It's just I don't know. It's a '90s aesthetic that has somehow carried over to the 2000s. I think they're just done really really well. They kind of remind me of the actor that played Kino in Ninja Turtles 2, or same actor from Surf Ninjas.
Yes. Yes. That is a perfect tie-in. Yes.
Because we all wanted to be him when we were kids. The man was super cut, just all muscle. And all of his fighting, obviously as you get older, you realize his stunts. I'm like, bro, buddy looked like he was, guitar. And he's like, yo, who is this man? Ernie Reyes Jr., I think his name is. They kind of give me that energy. Like they're I wouldn't be surprised if their character design was inspired by him. Like I think they've aged well. And then lastly would be Oni from Street Fighter 4. The evolved version of Akuma. Thought that was a really good concept. And not for nothing, Charlie.
Street Fighter 5 version or
just I would say just Charlie. Just Charlie in general. Just Charlie in general. Because for me, like I said, I was kind of a late adapter to some of the other main entries of Street Fighter. So I remember it was Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter. You could unlock Charlie technically, and it was a continuation of his story after his death, where he was revitalized as a cyborg, whatever. But his whole thing was like almost like a silhouette character. So he's mostly in black. And you're just like, who is again, for me who didn't know Street Fighter that well, I'm like, who is this Guile offshoot? Who's faster, sleeker? Again, the hair is just catches your eye
Guile.
Immediately. Yeah, Guile with just precision. And I was like, oh,
Guile does the sonic boom wrong.
Yeah,
you're supposed to do it with one hand.
Yeah,
you're supposed to do it with one hand.
So Charlie,
and you're not supposed to do a somersault when you do it. Guile does it wrong. Yeah. Charlie. Crazy.
Mm-hmm. So that's my 5. Y'all can take it from there.
Oh, you go.
Akuma, Shin Akuma. I thought the white hair And the purple eyes with the purple aura and the gi turning purple too. I was just like, dog, this is, or dark blue, whatever it is, crazy. I was like, man. And then I was like, man, I can't argue with this. I didn't know I needed this color scheme. I didn't think I would be. I didn't think the color scheme, the original color scheme of Akuma, would be more intimidating than Shin. Like anything could be more intimidating than that, and then there's Shin Akuma. Amazing design for me, man. One of my favorites. Character. Yeah, Charlie. Charlie's one of them too, man. Charlie's like, man, I wish I care. I wish I created a character that looks this cool, man. Glasses, the wristwatch, the flight jacket, everything, man. Like he's just character design is dope, man. Really enjoyed a lot, man. Who else, man?
And again, it doesn't have to be 5. It could be 3.
It could be 3. Who's in 3? Oh, Makoto's cool. Makoto's cool. I like Makoto. Like Makoto with the gi, and I like the fact that she had the her belt around the neck. That was cool. That was a little cool accent or whatever. Mahone. She's from Street Fighter 6. Is that too soon? No, the French woman. The pink hair lady?
The dancer.
The dancer, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. I think
really?
her character. Yeah.
In your top 5?
Okay. Yeah, I think because she like for me she felt like she's always been there, and that's kind of like when I know Street Fighter's going down the right direction. Cause she's like a better version of Abel. Like, yo, why wasn't this Abel? Her color scheme's still like Abel. She's both French, just like Abel is. She's still a grappler.
Yeah.
You know, and
ballet. Yeah.
She has so much personality. Like, you know, she's a ballerina, but she's also a fashion woman. You know, and I like that bourgeois fashion woman design because JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is like that. Even her wind pose. You know, I was like, yo, she would have been a better Jolie. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on. No Jolene slander, bro.
I'm sorry, kid.
No Jolene slander.
But like for me, like I was like, yo, I like this character design a lot, man. She's cool. She's dope. Then I like
So that's 4.
Don't hate me.
One more.
That's one more?
Yeah.
Adon.
Yeah? You've been mentioning a lot during this podcast.
Cause I don't know why they don't do this, but I love his getup. I love the traditional Muay Thai. I feel like it's so unique and it's iconic. I love the Muay Thai. I don't know what they call them, man, but they wrap around the armbands.
Okay.
Yeah. So those armbands and the headpiece. I love that headpiece so much because I like Muay Thai. And then the fighter band. If you didn't know, the character I created has the bandage wraps around his fist. I love that. I love the bandage wraps on the feet, and I love how his pants are. So for me, and then Don's hair, you know, if his voice wasn't like that, character all the way, man.
Okay.
But I think Adon's a very unique character design. He's up there.
And then Tim, 3 to 5 character designs I've just sat with you.
Well, this was definitely a late entry, you know. I like Street Fighter V's version of E Honda.
Okay.
Face paint, even like, you know, the sumo get up, like I was like, yo, like E Honda looking rich. Like it's looking real rich, like, no, like, bro, this ain't just a sport for me, bro. Like, I got businesses. I got a family name and stuff like that. So, like, I just love his whole getup. Another design that really stuck with me was I gotta combine them together. Yin and Yang's design, man. Like, just that urban-ish with the skateboard, the skates, the caps. Even like their theme song from Third Strike is one of my favorite songs just to play the instrumental of. like, and you feel that urbanness in it. Like, I just love them as characters, man. And then the last one, it's my main girl, Juri, from Street Fighter 4, man. That white pink with the black spider symbol, bro. And half her face was covered because she had the little the cyborg guy. It's like she just was so captivating, man. But yes, those characters designs have always stood out to me.
Okay. I think that's a good sum up. I think that's a good sum up. All right, go ahead, Jory.
One honorable mention. I actually two. I like Bison. I like Bison's design. Yeah.
Bison.
Dictator.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious to hear where you're going.
Because for us, if we didn't know where his inspiration came from, it wouldn't have bothered you. Like now, people know subconsciously.
It doesn't bother me. It's not that it bothers me. It just Bison's design out of everyone else just feels more like a sign of the time. Of like, it's the what?
Propaganda and all that other stuff.
Yeah, propaganda. The chuckling, ominous big bad in the corner. You can see evil. The way he's like, everything about him is just like almost like a '90s Disney villain. In the best of ways. Because it was the 90s.
Man, I don't know. I actually don't hate that though, man.
Again, there's nothing wrong with it. I just think in terms of Street Fighter is 40 years old at this point?
And we say that now. We say that now, but the way fashion's going, I would give it a good three more years to where like, this design is fire. It's actually not as outdated.
I mean, as far as if we were to, get into fighting game villains, I think in terms of impact, he's up there. He's probably maybe top 5 fighting game wise in terms of just a design that kind of catches your eye right away, if that makes sense. But I just think in terms of like how it's aged over the years, I don't think Bison holds up as well as some of these other characters. They haven't done enough with him, even with alternate costumes, where I'm like, it's just, It fit that era perfectly, but it's just not. If I had to give it a go again, I don't know if this is the design I would look as like the one.
Okay,
I don't know.
And then Seth.
Yeah, Seth.
First one from 4.
I actually like both versions of Seth.
Yeah, actually.
Female Seth is Orochimaru. How can I be mad at that?
Basically.
I thought Orochimaru design is one of the A1, which we've spoken about, is one of the most terrifying things you could do in a shonen villain ever. And I think Seth is just very inspired by that, and I think it's great. I don't know. It was a little off-putting at the time when they revealed him, and you're just like, why does he have a woman's body? But
the timing wasn't helping, but
Yeah. But it was fire. All right, y'all boys, this has been our Street Fighter 6 mostly podcast. I want to do something different for episode 3. Normally we cover a variety of topics, but I felt like, coming off the heels of the release, as we're gearing up for the summer of games dropping, I think watching Capcom kind of really take their fighting game section off life support with this game has been a pleasant surprise in the best of ways. And I think even in this conversation, they kind of encapsulated of what has really sat with fans of video games, but fighting games specifically about Street Fighter over the years. So, any closing thoughts before I wrap everything up?
Like I said, after we don't spend $120 worth of DLC, we'll see it.
Yeah, I mean, so to piggyback on Tim, if I'm a cognitive person, right, I don't want to get rid of my legacy characters, but I also want to move forward. You can do a reboot.
Okay. And for me,
go back to formula.
Okay, I would be, to be honest, I would be open to both routes. I wouldn't mind Street Fighter coming to a close. I think there's nothing wrong with a fighting game franchise coming to a definitive close. I think it should be employed more rather than just games that's disappearing. But yeah, I think in terms of the next 40 years, let's just say, of Street Fighter, I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain the current storyline. So, all right, y'all. This has been another episode of the Gamer Podcast. You can follow us on our various social media handles. The links will be in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you guys again for joining us for another episode.